Folks, we're here. I'm gonna go get my coffee, and we can go through replays for a couple hours at least. Probably won't get through a tremendous number. We're gonna do like 2, 3 from each round, and then the semis and the finals, and that'll be about it. I'm pretty gassed after all the stuff I've had going on today, so we'll just kind of do what we can get done. Okay. So here we go, guys. We've got quite a few here. Let's just get started somewhere down here at the bottom. We've got some counts and high elves. It's always a pretty good matchup. Kislev versus Tzeentch is an interesting one. We might go through this matchup. Because it's not tremendously common. Definitely one that you're going to need a little bit of extra advisement in. I think we will start here. Honestly, Kislev has a massive advantage over Tzeentch. Kislev has great leadership, great shooting, good artillery. Great big targets like the frostworms and whatnot that can really beat up on the characters that Tzeentch loves to bring. For being primarily known as a ranged and magic faction, there's actually a lot of combat potential in the Tzeentch Lord, excuse me. I would go so far as to say that the Frostworms basically hard counter all of the combat characters that Tzeentch has, outside of the Exalted Heroes, and the Exalted Heroes are great, don't get me wrong, but they can get stuck in mass, and Kislev does have a lot of mass. Plus, those Exalted Hero characters are very weak to getting blasted by something like a Streltsy, so you gotta be pretty careful with them. Anyways, we'll just kick it off. We've got lots of blue Hars in the front line, some pinks behind, some Marauder Horsemen. You got 2 of those, an Exalted Flamer, Metal Sorcerer with just Searing Doom. Tzeentch really does love having Plague of Rust, so I would recommend trying to mix that in next time. Kislev is fairly heavily armored. Kossars obviously don't have much, but they've got their cavalry, right? And stuff like Winged Lancers, this is a Winged Lancer right here. They've got 80 armor, so an upgraded Plague of Rust takes them down to 20. And then you're just blasting them through the shield, and you can really screw these guys up with some good use out of that. I'd really love to see a little bit more than just the bombardment spell, despite how good it is. Especially if you're going to bring a million blues and pinks, you can definitely get some mileage out of the ability to lower the armor values, especially in the cavalry. because the cavalry will be very lightly exposed for the most part. Plague of Rust lasts ages, so you can really get away with murdering them with your Marauder Horsemen at that point, who are going to be one of the few things that can stay apace with these guys, right? Dervishes, we're just trying to catch some Marauder Horsemen and ate a lot of javelins for the effort. Pretty painful. Not really a good idea to chase Marauder Horsemen with melee units of any kind. It doesn't really matter what it is, because it's so hard to close the gap on the 90 speed. Just stay back, and either bring something heavily armored forward, like the Winged Lancers, or just use missiles to box out Marauder Horsemen. Marauder Horsemen just get absolutely annihilated by stuff like Wolf Hearts, Ice Guard Glaives. Armored Cossars can also shoot them to bits. Just being a little patient, and then attacking with those specific units to try and push back the shooting is a way better idea. Winged Lancers, very bad idea doing stuff like this. This Winged Lancer is just fully out of position. It's not so far away from the main line that it's just, like, doomed to do absolutely nothing at the very least, but you can see it's only gotten about 250 value, and it's down to about a third of the HP pool. It's better to move in with your main infantry force and get your shooting online before you start going for cavalry dives. You don't want to double up charges like this either with cav. It happens a lot. I've definitely made this mistake many, many times. You know, speaking from experience, you want to try and avoid having 2 cavalry units on one target. Cavalry especially, over infantry and monstrous units, get very blobbed up because they are on these mounts, and there's probably a good, like, I mean, how many guys are in this unit? 60 each? They've lost a few models, probably still about 40 of these models that are not actually in combat right now, which is a huge waste. Plus, you just leave your flank completely open. What you do is you charge with one of the Kossovite dervishes, and then the other one is just kind of hovering out on the blue line, and if your opponent's Senegors try to engage, then you get your dervishes, and you can fold in onto the back of your opponent as they charge in. You can get kind of a, you know, get a bit of an Oreo sandwich deal going on. You want to try and layer your attacks as much as possible. You don't want to just kind of bum rush in and hope everything goes well. I mean, some factions can get away with that and get a really good magic punish here. The fact that none of these dervishes broke because their good leadership is awesome. You did get hit really hard by that Searing Doom, though. But that Hawks of Miska from Kislev just got buffoonish amount of value. That's 2 Senegors. Senegors are crazy expensive. All DB is kind of getting bailed out by that one magic cast, to be honest. It's really saved the mobility fight, and he's killed both of the Senegors right now. Those Senegors would have been really helpful for, like, breaking up the Wolf Hearts, charging down the Armored Cossars up on the high ground here, getting rid of the Griffin Legion, who are moving out now. All you've got to answer with at this point for Tzeentch in the mobility game is the Marauder Horsemen, and that's going to be pretty tough to handle. Changebringer's coming in. Changebringer's really strong, but really terrible position to bring them out in right now. Your opponent has Ice Guard Glaives on the field. You just can't expose them to this kind of fire. Ice Guards are one of the most accurate missile units in the game, actually. They have very, very effective volley fire, and they shoot pretty quickly, too. About every 10 seconds, and then as they get chevrons, goes down pretty fast, and they hit pretty hard. Much harder than a lot of other baseline missile units do. That's true of a lot of the Kislev bowmen. The regular Kossars are not the hardest hitting thing in the world, but the Akshina Ambushers especially have crazy AP values. And the Ice Guard Glaives have just good baseline missile damage, and they've got a decent amount of AP at 6, so they can definitely thump. And Changebringers obviously need that Fizz Res to stay alive, and these guys have magic attacks. Plus, they slow. It's important to remember that Frostbite is on the missile attacks, so Changebringers get within range, and they just get absolutely destroyed. And that's 1,500 gold that you lose immediately. very, very painful to have happen. A-Cold and the Chaos Spawn Summoner just beating up on some units. Good value out of the Chaos Spawn, about 550 value just about. A-Cold doing his best, but look at the front line for Tzeentch right now. It's just completely folded up. Kislev fumbled with their Winged Lancer early in the game. Definitely a little bit of a bad engagement with that unit, but the quality of the Kislev infantry with the Armored Kossars everywhere, more than a match for the Blue Hearts, and then the Ice Guards and the Wolf Hearts here have also done a fairly good job of punishing a lot of the Tzeentchian units. Griffin Legion running down some of the Marauder Horsemen here. Griffin Legion you can actually use to chase Marauder Horsemen. We mentioned it earlier that Winged Lancers aren't a bad option. Griffin Legion have even higher armor, and their charge speed is really high. They can definitely get in. If your opponent slips up for even a moment with their micro, the Griffin Legion will just absolutely annihilate these guys as they make contact. They are crushingly powerful with their weapon strength and crazy high charge bonus. That glorious charge, oh, forget about it. Chosen come in, Winged Lancers kind of piling in from the flank. This Winged Lancer chased off a bunch of Centaurs. Also just sweeping up some other tattered units. You can see the Metal Magic is getting pretty decent value. Really not too shocking. It's one of the best spells in the entire game. The problem is that your opponent still has a decent force left on the battlefield, even though a lot of this Kislev army is fairly beat up at this stage. They're still here, and all the demons just crumbled out, right? Like, the Buyer of Blood is really good for keeping units available for Kislev into the late game. A lot of the time what happens is units will actually lose their leadership fairly early for the Kislev forces, like Buyer of Blood procs, and then they just hold in there for the 25 seconds, and Kislev finds a unit that can peel off the attack for the unit, and even though they're left in these very battered, left at very battered HP totals like this Armored Kossar here, it's still 41 models with a decent amount of ammunition left. Like, that's not an, that's not a useless amount of firepower for you to just chip away at something like a Chosen. These Chosen are, like, rock solid against missile units normally, but when you've got this many shooting pieces left on the battlefield, it's going to make it very hard for a unit like this to function properly. So they get dogpiled on by the Things in the Woods who are helping out this Armored Kossar unit, and Kislev's going to be walking away with a pretty dominant win here. Really the only big mistake that all DB made was the Winged Lancer charge early on. They just went right up the pipe and got completely trapped up, but he did move in quickly behind that with the infantry and got the shooting online very effectively, and it did swing very quickly in Kislev's favor. They just had a better, larger army. They got a beautiful Hawks of Miska on top of the Centaurs, as I mentioned. As it was going on, that absolutely clutched this game out, because those two Centaurs could have been a real problem for the Kislev forces. Could have really ping-ponged off of a lot of these units, doing huge damage and then bouncing out to go after the Winged Lancers and the Griffin Legion that were coming in, just massively up trading. So, good disciplined play from Kislev, and good punish with just a couple of spell casts has gotten them everything they need here. Chaos Sorcerer with some good value. I don't actually know where A-Cold... Oh, A-Cold's all the way over here. A-Cold only has 800 value. A-Cold's a great character, guys, but I think he's maybe a little overrepresented in Tzeentch builds. He's fine. I do think Kislev is a pretty good matchup for him. He can get slapped around by some of the Kislev monsters, but just because of how durable he is and how expensive Kislev infantry can be, I think he's not a bad choice here. But in a few other matchups, it's definitely worth considering just not bringing him, because he is a foot character, and foot characters don't have a lot of initiative. They basically just go to a point and they just sit there and they hope that they can beat up on something that trundles by. And you can see Acold all by himself can't even cap the objective away from one cavalry unit, or the things in the woods here, so it's a little bit of a negative momentum at times. I don't know. I really think the Exalted Lords of Change are the best way to go as a Tzeentch player. Sartorial especially is probably the most powerful. He's just such a good combat character, and he's got a great item with the Rock of Inevitability. I would much rather see Sartorial against Kislev, personally, than this Chaos Sorcerer and Acold combo. Not to say that it's bad, I just think that Sartorial himself is going to give you a lot more punching power, battlefield control, and Terror isn't super relevant against Kislev because they do have the Unbreakable ability on them, but it is a one-time use thing, and it does wear off eventually, right? You can kind of hit and run against Kislev forces sometimes, proc Dire Blood, and then come back with terror-causing units to get the terror route, because they do run away just same as everybody else. It's worth keeping that in mind for the future. Sartorial can get beat up by Frostworms, though, so it's definitely worth keeping that in mind. I just do find him to be a little bit more versatile than a really slow-foot character and a non-combat-oriented Lord caster option. And even though he's not great against the Frostworm, Sartorial can still hold his own against them. And there's always the chance that Kislev just doesn't run one, right? Need more use out of the Exalted Flamer. It got a few volleys off, didn't do a whole lot. I don't really love Blue Horrors against Kislev. They're way too flimsy, honestly. I would just go for, honestly, I would just go for a couple Zangors. Like, you don't even need, like, a whole front line. You can still do the Sour Guts, maybe cut this Pink Horror, get, like, 3 Zangors in here, have those Zangors go grab a point, and then use your Marauder Horsemen, the Sour Guts, and the Exalted Flamer to kind of skirmish over another while while Acold moves in to get on that objective, and the Chaos Sorcerer Lord can start punishing anyone trying to attack Acold with Searing Dooms or any other relevant magic. That's why I do think Plague of Rust would be really nice. There's a big armored like monster attacking Acold, you can drop Plague of Rust on there, and then you can get some extra damage with the Sour Gut shooting and Marauder Horseman volleys. It's worth considering. Changebringers can only come in after you've killed Ice Guard. Ice Guard are just going to hard counter this thing. You can never ever leave it in a position to get shot by those guys. And the Cynegors, I mean, it was just really good magic play, so there's really not a lot you can do about that. Sometimes your opponent just kind of makes the right call and outplays you. Maybe not sending both Cynegors in there would have saved you, but it's a little bit tough to make that call at the time, you know. You're not always going to be able to anticipate exactly what your opponent's going to do. Sometimes you gotta go for a big swing and see if you can actually get a good payout from it. We've seen some Walk and Tomb Kings recently. It's a cool Tomb Kings build, though. Very melee-oriented, and Valkia is always fun to see. Burning Head Caster, though, and a lot of very typical units otherwise, so maybe we'll come back around to this one. Although, this is looking interesting. Lizards and Skaven looks fun. What's up, Patty? Yeah, man, I'm happy to do it. Just been busy with a bunch of other stuff that I couldn't really get out of today, so a little bit of a shame I couldn't do it live. That's really what I prefer. But doing it now is a good substitute. So we got Manlom and Laxus here, who's a new Lizardman player. Always good to see that. Lizardmen are a great faction. They can win tournaments. They're a little hard to helm at times. They've got some really bad matchups. You know, they're fairly versatile, though. They can definitely scrap with most everybody. Skaven are a little bit tough for Lizardmen, though, I would go so far as to say. If you're not getting, like, huge terror routes with your units, then if you get stuck into a grind with them, your Saurus can get a little bogged down by all the bodies and then just shot to death by Globadiers or Jezzails or whatever the Skaven have brought. It's a cool Skaven build. You got Gutter Runner Slings and Night Runner Slings. Moving up early, I do like this choice, actually. I think these units are massively underappreciated. They've got a ton of ammo. They don't hit super hard, but they fire really quickly. Stuff like Red-Crested Skinks get absolutely folded up by them, in fact, and Skink Skirmishers do really poorly into them as well, so... you can also use their shots against the Salamander Hunting Pack from a distance. They've got the same range, right? Yeah, they got the same range. Gutter Runner Slings are going to win that trade. Because the Gutter Runner Slings also have extra damage that the Night Runners don't. Plus, they're more accurate, and they fire the same speed, right? Yeah, they do. Every 8 seconds. Every 8 seconds is still really fast. A lot of other shooting units fire much slower than that. Skink Skirmishers are an exception. Stuff like the Kossar bows, Akshina's ambushers fire really slowly. Pink Horrors are like every 10 or 11 seconds. In terms of like having 140, like above 100 meter range, every 8 seconds is a blistering pace of fire. You can see how quickly they wear down this Red-Crested Skink. Really good focus fire, man. I mean, that's what you bring all these missiles for, right? And unlike artillery, where artillery can be a little wasted focus fired, missile units like Slings and Jezzails are very good when you actually concentrate on one target, so it's a big loss for the Lizards early. And you can see that there's no gold damage value being reflected here right now. Seems like Laxus has the edge, but it's a 500 gold unit he's lost, so really it's the Skaven. That's why you can never trust these value meter bars. It's really janky. It's really frustrating, to be honest. I hope they fix it for the future, but you work with what you got. A little bit of a weird situation going on. It's like the Salamander Hunting Pack shots are kind of bursting over the head of the Skaven there. Natty Bubo's coming in. Very, very quick and clean volley. Getting some nice damage in on the Salamander Hunting Pack, but a good Rev Crystal to heal them up. Let's keep them in the fight a little bit longer, and wasting shots on Clan Rat Spears, though, definitely not the call. Honestly, right now, what the Lizards should do... I know it's hard to do this in-game sometimes. It's definitely one of the things that I have to be very mindful of. It's always something that gets me in trouble. It's just playing patiently off of 2 objectives, man. Like, you're so far forward against huge Skaven front line, right? I mean, they've got bodies all the way around the map, basically, on their side of the field. Don't mess with that. Don't mess with that front line right now. Just get your Saurus back, have the Salamanders on the other side of the hill, get your Skirmishers out on the number 1 to just push back any of the mobility like the Wolf Rats, and just prepare for your opponent to move in. Like, they have to come to you. You've got the objective edge right now. Let them waste their time just sitting there doing nothing. If they're going to be going about it that way, then go for it, guys. C'est la vie. Live your life, Raki. We don't need to make your job easier. Skaven want to come forward and shoot you. You don't have to move into them and shoot them. You don't want to try and trade that evenly with the Skaven. You want to let the Skaven move up and then start picking off isolated units. It's almost always going to be the best way to go about dealing with them. Got some magic going on here. Uranus Thunderbolt. Oh, a Comet of Cassandora. Some really good damage. Nothing tremendous, though. I mean, probably about 400 value out of that one, because it did hit a Gutter Runner, and this Night Runner took some damage. The other Gutter Runner lost some models. Clan Rats, too. Definitely not the worst use of magic I've seen, but I think I'd prefer to see the Arcane Unforging going down on the Gracier of Ruin when the time comes. I mean, there's not really a good opportunity right now because you're a little boxed out. But that's why you give the Skaven a little room to actually move forward. And if you're actually paying attention and having your skirmishers to defend your back point, you wouldn't be having these wolf rats just steal it out from under you. Lax is just making a very common mistake for newer players and experienced players alike. Anybody can get antsy like this. You know, you think that value trading is the end-all be-all of the game, and it can be sometimes, but I'm telling you, man, the more you try to play off of the objectives, the better your games are gonna go, and honestly, the better engagements you get on average. You can see that the Skaven are already making some positioning mistakes as they get antsy about the objectives, and they're in a pretty good position. I mean, they've really thumped some of these units down. Hunting Pack is basically dead. Saurus Warriors, basically dead. A Red-Crested Skink has already died, and a Skink Skirmisher's running away now, too, so a lot of losses, but this Poison Wind Globadier is way out of position. Cohort of Waddle and this Feral Stegodon need to pull the trigger right now to go after these guys. You can definitely run over them. And yeah, the Teeth Breakers are nearby, but here's the thing about the Skaven weapon teams. They cannot fire when you're on top of them. They get absolutely trounced by anti-infantry attacks also. Feral Stegodon's actually a really good call here. I think that's a great choice for a single entity to kind of cause disruption through the front line. I think all of these hunting packs are actually a huge waste of time. I mean, they're not bad here. They can definitely do good damage to stuff like Rat Ogres. We do have one Rat Ogre on the field and another coming up to reinforce, but yeah, it's a little inefficient against the Clan Rats and a lot of the other skirmish tools. Beautiful Ruination of Cities there by Mazda Mundi. He's been getting some excellent value off of the Gutter Runner Slings. You can see one of those guys are running, the other Gutter Runner Sling is a little bit of trouble in pulling back. Beautiful Comet there, hitting the Teeth Breakers and the Clan Rats. Damage on the Teeth Breakers is pretty massive, because that's going to mean when any terror-causing monster gets near them, they're probably going to terror out immediately, because they just cannot abide by any amount of damage. They only have 3,900 as their base total anyways. Any additional damage is probably going to send them into an absolute panic here. Natty Boobos are just poking away. And you're just positioned too honestly. I mean, you're giving too much frontage for the missiles to actually make contact with you here. Truth be told, if you want to take an aggressive position against the Skaven here, you should just get up in the trees with some Saurus. Get like a couple Saurus up into the forest here and just dare the Skaven to move in and try and clear you out, because Teeth Breakers aren't going to do a very good job in there. Natty Boobos can't shoot very effectively in forests. Poison Wind Globadiers would probably be the thing that they would send over to try and clear you out, but these are really short range. And your opponent would have to move a decent chunk of infantry forward to defend them. That's where you can really start to jump on their army and really get after them position-wise. A lot of Comets just hitting Clan Rats. That's why these big damage spells aren't terrible against the Skaven, but really, you should just be using it on the Storm Vermin in the front line here. Look how many more bodies are blobbed up here than around this Gracier. Like, you just bombed the unit defending him, but there's nothing to attack him with, right? All of your units are, like, busy elsewhere and are pretty boxed out away from him. This unholy infantry blob that the Skaven are offering here is the ideal target for Comet. You've passed up how much value? I mean, there's a Clan Rat here, Clan Rat Spear, and a Storm Vermin Halberd. One good Comet here would probably get you about 800 value. Just dropping it right on the center of the Storm Vermin and the Clan Rats. You would do huge damage to the very valuable Storm Vermin. They're, what, 950 now? Clan Rats would probably basically get one shot even. And then you can actually have a bit of a force to push out with, because you got the Cohort of Sotek and the Cohort of Waddle here kind of struggling. Now look, you bring another Comet in, and your opponent just dodges, because they've got a little bit of an easier time disengaging here. If they try to disengage here, they're leaving the Rat Ogres completely alone at that point. Cohort of Waddle and the Cohort of Sotek will kill the Rat Ogres. Then, as the infantry tries to recontest, they'll be a lot worse off. And then the Lizards could get a better trade here. Laxus is staying fairly close, quote-unquote, in the value, but we've already seen how poorly that's being tabulated. They are massively behind against the Skaven. Skaven are all over them right now. There's bodies all over the field moving up. Night Runners with their little ninja stars running out to go grab the number 1. The Feral Stegodon spent a lot of time faffing around out here, and in fact, he's still over there, not contributing elsewhere. Huge error. Definitely a bit of an unforced mistake. They happen. It's better to try and keep your single entities tucked in and in a position where they're going to be more useful, right? You didn't need to send a Feral Stegodon over to chase off a Wolf Rat. You could have used a Feral Cold One and the Skink Skirmishers to do the same job. And it would have been way more effective for you. The Stegodon should have been over here, fighting over the middle, because the Terror is a lot more useful out on this flank. You've got the Bastillodon, but that's really it for terror options, and that means these Clan Rats are just kind of swarming over what shooting and reinforcements are trying to get in, and making life very, very difficult for you. Croxigors over here breaking. They're a really mediocre unit. I would honestly say Croxigors are just kind of bad, except for in the Dowie matchup. Sacred Croxigors are almost always a better option. And you can usually just spend the money elsewhere. Ripper Dactyls are a really good option against the Skaven. I know Skaven have Howling Warp Gale, which you gotta look out for, but for the mid to late game, Ripper Dactyls are great at finishing up weapon teams. And that's where the Skaven really make hay. It's by using stuff like Natty Bubos and their Poison Wind Globadiers to like punish your really heavy infantry that can just grind through wave after wave of Clan Rats and kind of put them on the back foot eventually. But if you don't kill the weapon teams, you're basically donezo. You have to get rid of these things, and Ripper Dactyls are excellent at it. I mean, they literally land on top of a weapon team, and in about 5 seconds they'll have killed pretty much the entire unit. So you just kind of keep them in the back pocket for the late stages. Stegodon is rampaging. It's just getting filled full of little volleys from the Night Runners here. It's really not doing that great. It's taking a lot of damage from them. I'm sure it's getting shot by some other stuff. I don't know if the sharpshooters are a little too far away. I wonder what else has been doing damage here. It's just all the Night Runners. That's pretty wild for a non-AP unit, in my opinion. And Mazdamundi gets completely surrounded by Wolf Rats and some Clan Rats. He's getting absolutely ripped apart, man. Great value on him. I mean, 400 is no joke, and 3,300 value is very, very nice, but there were definitely opportunities missed here for the Lizardmen. Magic wasn't concentrated in quite the right areas. Overcommitting. Salamander hunting packs in early was a really bad choice. The hunting packs should be a later game priority, in my opinion. When your opponent's trying to go for more mobile options, the Salamanders can kind of run away and skirmish with Wolf Rats a little bit. They can shoot Doom Flayers and Rat Ogres especially. And they can chip in against Clan Rats wherever and whenever possible. But honestly, I wouldn't bring more than one Salamander hunting pack. I think all you need is the Umbral Tide in this matchup. Just them. Fill out with some other units that you can make use of. I actually think a bunch of Cold One Riders isn't a bad call. 3 of them is nice. Bastillodon I'd cut. I'd cut both the regular hunting packs and maybe get another Feral Stegodon. The Feral Stegodons are just going to do a great job of cleaning up numbers. They've just got great momentum, and they're very hard to lock down, and they've got a decent amount of leadership at 60. With 9,000 HP, man, for 950 gold, too, that's like dirt cheap. There's a lot of factions that wish they had a unit as good as a Feral Stego. You know, they're a little limited in some ways because they don't have great generalist stats, but that infantry bonus is enough to trample over any number of clan rats, right? Just keep them off of Storm Vermin, get them to go after the weapon teams as well, and you'll be a happy camper. I would go so far as to even just set up a build here for you. On what would work really well. You don't need Roiling Skies. You can go Greater Arcane Conduit. Shield of the Old One's always good. Banishment and Ruination of Cities also strong. Net of Amantok is not bad here. It's got some uses. Doomflayers, Rat Ogres, you can catch out of position. Stuff like that. I think it's worth bringing because it's just such a strong spell. Do need to be a little mindful of how much you're spending on Mazda, because the more you're spending on him, the less cost-effective he is. It's already pretty expensive at base. If you want to go for the big spells, then Comet and Arcane Unforging is the way to go. Arcane is really good at killing Skaven Lords, because they don't have they don't really have healing. Throt is the only one who can heal. I guess technically the Warlord on his Broodhorror can, but you never see him. Comet's really good at just killing blobs of stuff. Not really going to work against higher level Skaven players, but for a new player tournament, Comet's really good because your opponent sends in a couple Storm Vermin onto one target on accident, and you can just delete that whole block of pretty high value Skaven infantry. And the more beaten up the Skaven frontline is, the better time you have engaging onto their weapon teams. You just absolutely bulldoze them. They do not defend their back lines well. When the Skavens start getting behind, they really fall apart. They're great at playing with the lead. They're one of the few Horde factions that's actually really bad at, like, recontesting the field once they start taking losses. Like, greenskins are generally cheap and durable enough to be able to always have presence on the field for the most part. Skaven, though, because of their bad leadership, they will just absolutely rout off the entire map and leave you with nothing to work with. So you got to be very careful of what you're doing with them. So Manlove did great. I mean, that was a really well played Skaven game. This is a nice little build for the expensive stuff. If you want to go for a more generalist set of spell options, Mazda's already got Banishment and Ruination. It's 2 uses of each, and they do huge amounts of damage. Honestly, you can just bring Net and Apo and be pretty happy. Although, you know what? Why not Comet against Skaven? I mean, it punishes numbers, so I actually am kind of coming around to the idea of bringing this against Skaven now. Because you do see a lot more Storm Vermin, and this really is going to do a great job of clearing them out, so why not? I mean, with all of these damage spells just blasting you on cooldowns, you're going to get real stressed trying to defend your weapon teams at that point. And Apo is just a nice heal. So you can just throw that down whenever and wherever you need it. You can always bring your Rev Crystal. Still do the Cohort of Waddle, and I don't know about Skink Skirmishers against Skaven. Truthfully, I would just bring a bunch of Skink Cohorts in the early game, and then a couple Red-Crested Skinks for any Storm Vermin early on. You might be able to get a jump on if they run out of position. And a couple Sora Spears for the late game. Sora Spears are still good enough in melee to kill hordes of clan rats, but they'll also beat the crap out of rat ogres and doomflayers, so nice versatile unit to have. Know when and where you want the cudgel variant of Saurus versus the spears, because there is a use case for both of them, and they're equally effective in the right circumstance, but they can be very useless if you're not managing your builds correctly. I would just go for some Javelin cohorts and maybe like a Chameleon Stalker to go sneak up on artillery or something, and then you can do something. What else would be good here? You can go for more bodies, I guess. Maybe a Razordon or something. They're fairly affordable. I don't know, maybe like Amixon Barbs and a Croxagore. That's kind of a off-meta choice, but, you know, I mean, Croxies just need a lot of support to work, and then the Amixon Barbs can really punch through some units. They might actually be pretty good against Skaven, because they can run in, fire over the top of the Skaven front line, and with just like one volley, they can absolutely rip apart something like a weapon team. Very powerful missile on these guys. They thump if you can get them going. Round 4 or 5 Skaven. We'll get there for sure. Yeah, for real, man. Unholy indeed. I'm feeling a little undead after everything I've been up to today, so I'm going to try and keep it focused and moving along. We've gotten a couple of round 1 games out of the way. Let's check out some round 2 action. We got some Beastman Dowie. I'm very curious to see how this goes, because I'm a huge Beastman lover. I mean, I haven't played them in a little while, but I'd still say they're my second best faction. They do tend to dominate the dwarves, though, so I think we'll come back around to it, because you can find plenty of other replays of people just absolutely clowning on the Dowie with the Beastman. And let's take a little peek at something else if we can find it. Lizards counts as an interesting one. Ooh. Wood Elves, Tomb Kings, or Kislev High Elves? I actually want to do some Tomb Kings Wood Elves. The reason I want to talk about this matchup is this is a little bit difficult for the Tomb Kings if they play into the Wood Elves like they do against other factions. I actually think that the Tomb Kings can pretty easily dominate most Wood Elf players if they just max out on skeletons early with the silver shields. Like, just a million skeleton spears, a million skeleton warriors, hard push the objectives, back it up with some, like a couple of Tomb Guard, just the baseline Tomb Guard, the swords, and then get a bunch of cavalry in reserve and a couple chariots, and you can really munch through the Wood Elf lines. Chariots are really devastating against Wood Elves, especially because they do have good mass with their Wild Riders and Stag Knights and whatnot, but one chariot with just a little bit of time can just absolutely dunk on these low armor units. It's really disgusting how good they are against these guys. Tomb Kings also have some pretty good spells here. We've got, not Cetra, we've actually got Kotep. I do think Kotep can work against Wood Elves. He's a little squishy, though. I'd be a little afraid of bringing him personally. But he does have the Darude Sandstorms. I would actually bring the other Sandstorm, the actual spell. Because I do think this is one of the better matchups for it. It does huge damage. It lasts ages on the field, too. It's basically Flamestorm without the AP. Costs about the same too. It actually costs a little less than Flamestorm. Where the hell is Flamestorm? Here it is. So yeah, 27 seconds. Damage is about the same. Flamestorm just has the benefit of having AP, but it does a little bit less in terms of actual damage overall. And it's worth remembering, Sekhmet's Incantation of the Soulstorm does flaming damage. I don't think people really pay attention to this fact. It actually took me a little while to catch on to this. That's what makes it so good against the Wood Elves, because, I mean, it goes right around Dryad's Phys-Res. Like, just completely forget about these guys having physical resistance, and then you get 25% extra damage on top of them because of that, and they only have 60 armor. they get destroyed by that spell. So, for you Tomb Kings players, seriously keep it in mind. It is shockingly effective against Wood Elves. And I think it has a pretty long cast range, too. Farther than a lot of other Vortex spells. Let me take a little peek. Yeah, 150 meters is pretty far. Against the Wood Elves, who have like 190 range on their missiles in some cases, and Arrows of Kurnus and whatnot, a little bit scary, but especially on a map like this where you've got lots of trees, you can at the very least get behind a terrain blocker and just get in position. You can always just drop it on the Dryads in the front line if the time comes. Good call-in. Screaming Skull Catapult, not a bad choice here. Definitely going to do some good damage to the missile line and to the Dryads. Magic damage missile. You've also got the take cover effect, which can really mess with the leadership, so we'll see what kind of work it gets going here. Gets a couple of model kills on the Dryads, and Tomb King's moving in right now. Might want to build up a little bit more. Also really don't like the Hyrule Titan pick. I think Hyrule Titans actually do have something of a place in the meta, but these big monsters against Wood Elves almost never work, man. Wood Elves just have way too much missile pressure. I mean, a couple Way Watchers alone will just absolutely destroy this thing. Forget about it if your opponent has like a big Glade Guard line as well. Good micro back from Smoky Loco. Good value trading in general going for the Wood Elves here. Wood Elves can definitely overwhelm you by just putting out really high quality units with really good shooting and skirmish to back it up. So we'll see how it ends out by the end of this one. It's too early to call. I mean, they're almost always going to be up on you. Wood Elves fall apart once you start really locking down all of their units in melee combat. Kata being out in the middle of the open field, though, is probably going to be all she wrote, though. Especially with Doombolt hitting Kata up here. He's down to 1700 HP already. He's getting crapped on. He is really struggling. Also, this is a very basic mistake to make. Just be very careful of this. Usirians is only good against cavalry and infantry. Do not use this against single entities. It literally does like 3 damage a tick. It's very useless against SEs. Plus, the upgraded version does not do more damage. It just lowers speed more. So, that's a big swing and a miss, honestly. Oh, this is not the upgraded. It's just, the damage boost from Greater Arcane Conduit. Oh, is he close? Actually, he's close enough for Spirit Conduit. Okay, that's cool. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why the Hyrule Titan is actually useful in a few matchups now. I think really good against Vampire counts, actually, the Hyrule Titan is. But you can see here against the Wood Elves, I mean, they just turn all their missiles over and literally looked just a minute or two ago, and it had 11,000 HP, and oof. You really hate to see it. Honestly, I think the Tomb Kings could have worked around this. They just needed to bring out the Chosen of the Gods and have the Screaming Skull Catapult positioned a teeny bit better, just like get it a little farther forward and just have it firing onto the Glade Guard. Get the Chosen of the Gods in and push them forward, and then you can move in with your infantry. Because you'll reveal Way Watchers, maybe, and also just be able to occupy the attention of the Glade Guard while you really start to thin these guys out with your shooting, your own shooting, right? There's a lot of things that the Tomb Kings could have done a little bit differently here that would have helped them out tremendously. Deep pushing into the Wood Elf lines is almost always a bad idea. They're just going to go defense in depth and shoot you to bits on the way in, or they'll swarm you with their cavalry. Their cavalry is really high quality. Glade Guard, or Glade Riders, and Wildwood Rider, okay. Glade Riders and the Wild Riders alike are just really good options for rushing down stuff like Skeleton Horsemen. Glade Riders because they're fairly inexpensive, and Wild Riders because they just shred through everything. They've got Frenzy and really high charge bonus, so they're just an absolute nightmare to wrangle. And their stats are fairly high, honestly. Wild Riders do have pretty decent melee defense, so Skeleton Horsemen kind of bounce off of them. Really, I think going for the numbers strategy and then just being able to actually use your magic is the biggest thing for the Wood Elves here, or for the Tomb Kings here. The less time you spend getting shot to death by the Glade Guard, the better it is for you. I mean, that's not really the most cutting-edge analysis, you know? Like, who would have thought avoiding the missiles of one of the best missile factions in the entire game is a good idea, right? But it really can be as easy as that sometimes, and I think the Tomb Kings just overplayed themselves early. They did not need to advance on the number 2 objective. Just forget about spending all your time over here. Focus on holding your number 3 objective down and get your missiles out and start value trading a little bit, and then think about where you're going to push either the number 1 or the number 2. Try and avoid the concentrated positions where all of your Way Watchers and Glade Guard are hanging out, right? Wild Riders, Glade Riders everywhere. Game's basically over. Kotep died, I'm pretty sure. You've got the Spears struggling out here. Generally, you just want to avoid fighting Triads in their entirety if you can help it. It can be a little tough because they're really quick on foot, but the more time you spend punishing them with magic rather than your melee troops just having to try and grind through them, the better, because Triads are just really cost-effective in the melee grinds. They're not as good as they used to be in Warhammer 2 because the power curve has just kind of passed them by, but against Tomb Kings, who haven't gotten a tremendous amount of changes between 2 and 3, Dryads are still pretty damn effective at just clearing out shafts, so keep your warriors and Nehekara warriors away from them. Use the Screaming Skull catapults to kind of hammer them. If you really want to start like moving in to try and cap a point, like a couple volleys from the catapult, and then attacking them with a cavalry unit, and then bringing your infantry forward is probably the way to go about it. Or you just bring the chariots. No chariots this game is a big mistake in my opinion. Wood Elves have lots of cavalry to shut chariot play down, but Tomb Kings have pretty cost-effective ones, so it's not nearly as bad as if like a White Line of Trace chariot got locked down by a Wild Rider.
I knew it.
Double Arrow of Kurnus and the Way Stalkers got a lot of value there. Just cut the Hyrule Titan. It's not going to work here. Even if you use all the Shems and the Spirit Leeches, still not that good. Get rid of it. It's just a big, it's just a big magnet for missiles. Just fill out with more shields, dude, seriously. Shielded Warriors and Spears are actually really amazing against Wood Elves, because once Wood Elves run out of ammo against Tomb Kings, you just bring a million Nehekara Horsemen and Skeleton Horsemen in and just bum rush everything the Wood Elves have on the field, and you'll eventually overwhelm them with the numbers. It is the best strategy. This is a very narrow matchup for the Tomb Kings. They have like 2 ways they can play this and win, and that's probably the best one. The other is you just go like stupidly deep into the artillery, which I think is a big risk. Wood Elves are pretty good at shutting down arty play for the most part. Definitely want to be careful about that. If you're going to bring a single entity against the Wood Elves, then you want to bring a Sphinx or something. Because these things do great damage on the charge. They're really good at clearing out bodies and numbers and cause terror. Higher Titan causes terror too, but it's just so slow, it's never going to spread that out enough to actually start getting some opportune blob routes. Ushapti push is not the worst against the Wood Elves, just because Ushapti are really tough to kill. But there are Eternal Guard and stuff that the Wood Elves can bring, and those will absolutely rip Ushapti to bits. So they're not great. That's why I just go for the mobility play. In the few times I've played this matchup. I mean, seriously, just go, like, 3 and 3. Skeleton Archer Chariots are not actually that bad of a unit. They're fairly strong, but the baseline Chariots are just so cost-effective at 850. You don't really need to do anything too crazy. Get a couple Carrion, get the Chosen of the Gods, and then, like, one basic Sepulchral Stalker for any, Durthu shenanigans. You're probably not ever going to see Durthu here, but just in case you do, it can be nice to have something in the back pocket. And Sepulchral Stalkers can be a pretty good unit to have running around in the middle of the field, just kind of popping Wild Riders with the laser eyes. And they can survive a charge decently enough. It's really not too bad. Catapults. And honestly, some horse archers, skeleton horse archers aren't a bad call. I don't really like the foot archers. They get shot to bits. They will not do anything for you as the Tomb Kings here. They're a big waste of time. You can do like 2 of the Tomb Guard. I think you can fit Kotep in this army at this stage, actually. Just gonna have to cut a lot of his abilities, but you don't need My Will Be Done. Restless Dead is nice. Sandstorm's nice. Lich Staff is good. So we're a little bit off, but you can just cut one of the horsemen, and you can bring Sekhmets and Usirians. These 2 spells are excellent damage. They will do a lot to clear out numbers for you, and punish cavalry. Because the Wild Riders can be very annoying in the early game. Not super fun to wrangle with Skeleton Horsemen early on. The Usirians can help flip a lot of those fights for you, plus lower speed, so you can maybe even catch a couple of them out of position. You can just get them on the chariot, I guess, if you really want them. Don't ever bring him out of the forest, though, really, even if he's on the chariot. You're here to just, like, drop spells and do other shenanigans. I guess you can cut Lich Staff since you're not spamming the cheapest possible spells. You're going for, like, damage, so maybe it's not that useful. Is there any way we can fit another Horse Archer in? If you cut the Restless Dead, I guess you can. Even with the more expensive spells, it's still really good. But honestly, maybe you don't really need the healing. I'm just go really deep on all these units here, and you'll be just fine. You got 1,800 to mess around with. Bring whatever you want. Mix and match, I guess. I would just continue to go for, you know, like durable units with some good damage potential. Maybe some more Tomb Guard for cap weight in the late game, because it's going to be a little tough. I mean, this is a pretty favorable matchup for the Wood Elves. They just have good matchups, period. This is just, in my experience, the more effective Tomb King style. Because big characters get shot to pieces by all the missile play from the Wood Elves. So Kotep with the Sandstorm and damage can just be a really nice, consistent option that you play very, very, very passively and carefully with. For sure, guys. Absolutely. Which faction is new player friendly? Khorne, Kislev. Kislev for the most part. Kislev's like a good middle ground for just about everything. Khorne, Kislev. Chaos Dowie are a pretty decent beginner faction. People say Lizardmen. I don't really think they're that beginner friendly. Vampire Counts are the most beginner friendly undead faction because they're just stupidly durable. You don't really have amazing options. I mean, all of the undead factions have some glaring weaknesses, but Counts have the fewest, and they just have really strong lords and generally effective units despite having a fairly limited roster, I would say. They're the one you would go for with undead. Everything else, I would say, definitely needs a little bit of time and play with to really start to lock the factions down and truly understand them. I guess Norska is fairly easy to pick up and play. They've got some pretty ridiculous stuff right now. Slaanesh, despite being the strongest faction, is really not that beginner-friendly. Because Slaanesh is really expensive, so you need to really get your micro down before you can helm these guys to full effect. But once you've got experience with some other stuff, and you jump over to Slaanesh, you'll just kind of see what I'm talking about with how crazy busted they can be. Honestly, you know what? To break it down simply, between Norska and Slaanesh, Norska is basically Slaanesh light. Norska has, like, the higher, floor. Like, they just perform better overall, more consistently. Because they have, like, a nice blend of cost-effectiveness and, width. And then, Slaanesh just has a higher ceiling, right? Like, at the highest levels of play, Slaanesh is going to dominate Norska. But for a new player tournament, Norska would be a better place to begin. Because of High Elves, what do we want to do here? I know we'll get more counts later on. And Lizards versus counts, I've covered a lot over time. I've got a couple replays. I've got one particular replay in mind, where I was playing Lizards into counts with a really unorthodox build. It's one of the standalone videos. I Lord Croaked the absolute hell out of a counts player. Lizardmen have a pretty decent matchup in accounts. It's pretty back and forth. It's about even in terms of win rates, but I think Lizards have the slight edge here. Rather try and find something we don't see every day. We don't have anything too out there. Kislev versus... You know, it is two players who won last round, and I don't see this all the time, so... This is a good chance to talk about this faction matchup. Kislev does generally do pretty well into the Skaven. Unlike other shooting factions who can really get folded up by the Skaven, the Kislev shooting, because they don't route quite the same way, are usually able to close the gap a little bit better and actually really start to lay into the weapon teams, because, you know, Kossars have a pretty good way to fire. Not like the most amazing thing in the world, but they can usually do enough damage to kill something like a Poison Wind Globe if they get in on them, so we'll keep an eye out for it. Plus, you got really good cav. It's actually the cavalry that really dominate in this matchup, and normally cav are actually a little weak against Skaven because they bring so many numbers, they can be hard to push around. But the Kislev cavalry are just a world unto themselves, particularly Lancers and Griffin Legion. Their Glorious Charge does a lot of work against Clan Rat leadership because it hurts their leadership like they're being flanked. Plus, I believe Winged Lancers and Griffin Legion cause fear, if I'm not just completely wrong. That's pummeling through a decent amount of leadership on Clan Rats. Because attacked in the flank is -6, and then fear is another plus, or a -8, so -14 leadership on a unit that's functionally got about 50-something leadership at base. It's pretty devastating. It can definitely hurt, and you can get some really nice early breaks, and Griffin Legion are also a good answer to Rat Ogres and Doomflayers. So they're good against the reinforcements of the Skaven as well. Normally, Rat Ogres and Doomflayers can survive most heavy cav. Griffin Legion have good enough charge bonus and weapon strength. They can get around the armor on those things. And Rat Ogres actually trade really well into Cav normally. Again, though, the Glorious Charge flips that around pretty heavily in favor of Kislev. Plus, you got good terror-causing units. You got Frostworms. I'm a little surprised to not see a Frostworm here, in fact. Because those things can really shut down Ikit. I mean, a Frostworm getting on Ikit with the Frostbite affecting him basically will completely immobilize him, and then you'll just kill him, because he can't get away. You can always bring a Patriarch for the heals to survive Cleansing Ruin. You can get around a lot of the normally powerful Skaven options. But Skaven are generally a pretty tricky faction to fight, so you do have to be a little bit careful about what you're doing against them. It's a little too deep to be diving, I would say. It's not going abysmally, though, because, again, that leadership, you see Dire Blood proccing. This is a unit that would normally be routing here, and the other Costified Dervishes probably wouldn't be too far behind. Instead, you get a leadership break, or really close to that on the Natty Bubos. You actually do break the leadership on these guys. Might even be able to chase them off with the Dervish here that's broken for now. But by the time Dire Blood wears off, might actually have enough leadership to be able to run them off. Wolfrat's coming in to buffer, but Gisele's down to 13 models, really beat up, and Things in the Woods disrupting the Poison Wind Globadiers means that the Kossar shooting line is actually just really laying waste to the Skaven. You can see over here, Poison Wind Globes dying out on that edge. Manlon's in a lot of trouble now, actually. What seemed like a fairly aggressive potential overextend is actually paying off pretty nicely for Kislev. They definitely have a long way to go, though. There's still Poison Wind Mortars here. There's one more globe. But a beautiful Hawks and Miska to help clear bodies off the Snow Leopards. And Snow Leopards are not bad against Skaven. I don't love them, but they're a pretty good hunter unit. And a couple of them can go beat up on Rat Ogres, and you can model snipe with them against the weapon teams for sure. So just having them available, not bad at all. Kossar's getting hit by Warp Lightning, really powerful spell. Great choice, really love it here. Good against cavalry and infantry alike, so some versatility against the Kislev forces. Kossar is getting a little inactive over here. Definitely want to get these online so that you can just support the number 2 fight, because it is a little woolly over here. It's not that bad, though. Kislev is just killing all the weapon teams, most importantly, right? Provided they can keep, like, a decent number of Kossars online, they should be able to easily control the points in the mid to late game. Winged Lancer finally coming up, and yeah, they do cause fear, so they just absolutely roll Clan Rats. You know, once you're out of all your magic, you can just throw those guys out. But Ice Witch in trouble. Ikit and Rat Ogres beating up on her for a minute, but she is able to squeak out the other side, and she is running. She does not want to be there, right? Rat Ogres would kill her pretty quickly, in fact. Rat Ogre here hanging in. Beating the crap out of the Snow Leopard. Poor Snow Leopards, man. Rat Ogres are just crazy cheap, honestly, for what they do. And in fact, Blood Beasts are a lot like Rat Ogres in more ways than one. Blood Beasts are maybe just a more powerful, more expensive variant of Rat Ogre, in fact, I would go so far as to say. But generally speaking, they're just a very cost-effective option to have for the Skaven to just run around and slap things down, because if you just get them underneath a few Clan Rats, they're almost always going to be able to find, like, 700 value, right? It's about how much they cost. They're really not something that you need to break the bank for. Bubos are rallying, but they're real beat up. They are going to be very ineffectual for the majority of this game. And another Winged Lancer has hit the field. Little Grom is firing from the flank. Dervishes are coming out to secure side points. And Kislev did survive the push in the middle, and they've reconstituted their bow line a decent amount. Wolfrat's charging Kossars, which is going to be fine for the Kossars. They will fight off a Wolfrat. Clan Rat's getting on them, though, is another question, but it's just a spear unit, so they might be able to hold for a little while here and allow the Winged Lancers to thump a bit. Rat Ogre's getting shot. Good targeting by all DB, honestly. And Things in the Woods routing a whole bunch of units here in the middle for the Skaven, and really starting to get pushed back now. Oh, and the Snow Leopard's actually pummeling poor Ikit. Ikit actually getting trounced there by the little captured kitties. Not so fun for him, for sure. Winged Lancers, you can see, they get shredded pretty hard by some of the missile play here. Buboes are shooting at them. I think they're also getting hit by... Yeah, the Weeping Blade is on them, so where's the... Oh, yeah, Eshin Triad underneath them. That's what's doing a majority of the damage, but still get decent value, all things considered. Look how many units are tied up on this one Cav unit. You got Rat Ogres, you got Clan Rats, you got Eshin Triads. That's just to shut them down. That gives time for the Kossars to shoot. Even though they're beat up, they're still functional, right? So the nice thing about Kislev, man, they're just so good at just hanging in there for late game situations, and especially against the Skaven, that can make all the difference, because that leadership on the Skaven is just so bad, man. Once they get into these late game positions where they don't have a proper onion, what I mean by onion is Skaven, unlike Dowie, don't just have, like, you know, a line of warriors and then maybe some miners in the gaps. It's really funny. I put it on slow-mo right before the game ends. Skaven usually just have a million units in the opener. They're almost always going to be having like 15, 16 at the very least. They're going to do like 3 layers of melee units interspersed with Globadiers, and then they're really long-range weapon teams behind that. It's really tough for a lot of factions to get through, actually. But Kislev, because of their good leadership, they can just get away with stuff that most people can't. And you kind of saw it here. Hawks of Miska is also really devastating. I just completely neglected to mention it, but Hawks of Miska is by far one of the best clear spells in the entire game against Horde factions, and, I mean, Skaven leadership is already bad. Why would you not take the spell that also punishes the low leadership? Right? Like, really, a Tempest Switch on the Frostworm. I actually do think Iron Ice Armor is pretty good on her. You can just run this, truthfully. 2200 for her. Miska, Armor, Conduit, Worm. Still got 6,800 gold to spend here. You can still bring all these Kossars. You can just max them out, honestly, and go with your Dervishes. It's a little awkward on the spin, but you can like cut these and get a couple Snow Leopards. I'd be a little skeptical of going deeper on them. You can just bring the Guardian Call if you really want. I really liked the little Grom in reserve. Grom is really good at killing weapon teams. I actually don't think Things in the Woods are very good here. They're okay. Like, that map, they're better than others because they have woodsmen. So they can fight in trees, which is always nice for a large unit. Otherwise, I think there's better options against the Skaven. I really do think, like, a Griffin Legion and just going a couple Winged Lancers is really all you need for mobile play. Although these guys aren't bad against Storm Vermin, I guess, so why not? And they're fear-causing. Okay, sure. I'm kind of talking myself into it, and then you can just go with some Armored Kossars, I guess. Maybe cut that guy and go for the Winged Lancer, and then Patriarch. On a Warhorse with Solyax for the heals. That's like a perfectly good Kislev army against the Skaven. You got bodies in reserve, you got good mobility, you got capture kitties, who can also kill stuff, of course. heals for your lord, and Hawks and Miska is just going to clear out so many of the clan rats. It's not even going to be fair, honestly. Because it doesn't affect your Kossars either, so your opponent's going to like run clan rats onto your Kossars, and you can just drop Hawks and Miska on the bunched up clan rats, kill them all right off the top of your Kossars, and get them shooting again immediately. Really nice combo. If I were playing a faction, or if I were going to play a faction with the intent of doing mostly all ranged units, what faction and units should I go? Kislev's a good one. There's a lot of ranged factions, honestly. Wood Elves are probably the best pure ranged faction, though. They have so many options, honestly. Some missile factions just have missile units that are absolute garbage, like Skaven, to get back to them for a minute. War Fire Throwers, trash. Poison Wind Mortars, kind of trash. Not the worst, but eh. Death Glow Bombardiers, pretty situational. Regular Rattling Guns, not that good. For the Skaven, it's really their RORs. You go Teethbreakers, Buboes, basic Globadiers, and Avalanche Mortars are like the best ones. Basic Giselles are pretty decent. I would never bring a regular Rattling Gun. I don't think they're that good. Their artillery is also kind of bad. Especially the Warp Lightning Cannons are pretty terrible. Plague-Claw Catapults are pretty good. Saying all of that just to say that Wood Elves, they can literally bring any of these missile units other than Hawk Riders and just absolutely dominate with them. I mean, a huge Glade Guard line is actually fairly strong at all levels of play because you just bring so many of them. Basic Deepwood Scouts are probably the weakest out of all of the baseline Wood Elf units in terms of the shooting, and they're still pretty damn good, so that's what you're dealing with. Swift Shiver Shards absolutely destroy demons. They just completely shut down a lot of the demon factions with the high damage magic missiles. Way Watchers destroy heavy cavalry and heavily armored infantry alike. They got a lot of ammo too. Stupidly cost effective. Hawkeyes of Drakira are even better because they discourage leadership, and they've got Smoke Bomb, and, look, man, you'll bully just about anybody. And you got really good Skirmish Cav. Your Glade Riders actually have the longest range out of all of the Horse Archers in the entire game. It's only 10 more range, but for units that shoot in a 360 arc, that's actually a huge edge, because it means that your opponent is closing ground while you're shooting them. You will absolutely destroy a Kislev Horse Archer in the head-up trade between a Horse Archer for Kislev and a Glade Rider. The Glade Riders will actually win because they just fire first, and they fire more accurately. Because of that, because your unit is charging in and the Glade Riders are firing at a position as you're closing the gap, so it's very tough to get in on them. And Sisters of the Thorn have a few matchups where they're really strong, so I would go Wood Elves, Skaven. Ogre Kingdoms are kind of cool, but they're not really as missile heavy as you might think. They've got a decent amount of missile play, but it can be a little limited. Kosa's a pretty decent shooting faction, just really immobile. You got to be very careful with your positioning on them. Not very beginner friendly. Empire. Empire is another faction you can go all shooting. I mean, you can literally max out on like archers, free company militia, Outriders, Pistoliers, War Wagons, grenade launchers, artillery, and then just have like some basic state troopers and cav do all of your other business. Who else? Chaos Dwarves really aren't much of a ranged faction, to be honest. I mean, I know they've really got some good stuff here, but they're kind of like a puzzle piece around which you build. They're not units that you build around. They're units that you have that supplement the builds that are already really solid for the Chaos Dowie. Like, Iron Demons are really the one of the heavy lifters for this faction, and Kadai Fireborn, another pretty solid, dependable unit for the Chowie. Really, the Infernal Guard Fireglaves come in to just, like, shoot stuff off that the Kadai can't clear out and deal with, and, you know, you bring in the Iron Demons to clear out infantry and whatnot. They've got good skirmish and good missiles, but they're not defined by it. High Elves are another good ranged faction. Dark Elves. Cathay is actually better as a missile faction than they ever will be in melee. I'm actually a big fan of bringing very limited numbers of, like, melee troops and just filling out on crossbows and crane gunners for Cathay, and just having the few Jade Warriors you actually do have just be there for harmony. I actually think it helps them a lot. Tomb Kings have some shooting that's pretty good. Tomb Kings do revolve around their shooting a lot. They just don't bring a ton of it. They're just very dependent on stuff like Chosen of the Gods to value trade well. Dowie are a great ranged faction because they have really durable missiles, and they got a lot of options. Oh boy, do they have a lot of options. I mean, you can go pretty much anything. Thunderers are a little temperamental. They're one of the ones I'd be careful of. But really, you can just bring, like, Iron Drakes and Bugmans. Slayer Pirates aren't half bad. Quarrelers, basic Rangers. Grim Delvers, super goated for supporting your Skyhammer Squadron, which is like a hybrid shooting, and then, you know, it's got these bombardments that just delete everything underneath them. And then they've got the best already in the game. Dowie have the best baseline cannons. Yeah, crossbows and cannons really is the way to go with Dowie. Dowie are cool. I really love them. I don't play them much. I love playing against them because I'm very experienced against them. But I really love watching people play dwarves and play them well because they're a rewarding faction. Dowie are very tough because they are very disadvantaged in domination mode, but good Dowie players find ways to work around the weaknesses. Ooh, excuse me. And they'll really actually give you some thrilling matches. Let's get some round 3 business going. Is it time for Walk? I think it might actually be time for Warriors of Chaos. Because the Vampire Counts matchup is kind of interesting. It's a very skewed build by KOTJ. I don't hate this build, but it definitely needs to be very precisely microed and handled to thrive against Counts, and that can be a little tough. Counts have a lot of options for beating up on expensive characters and units. And they also have a lot of mass, so they can do it cheaply, and they can also just bring some of their like hard counters, like Terrorgeist and Blood Knights will really shred stuff like a Demon Prince and Akold. Or not Akold, Aeson the Fallen, which I did see in reserve, so we'll see what happens with KOTJ here. This is a pretty good map, though, to go for Monster Mash against Counts. Counts have bad cap weight outside of Konigstein's Stalkers, Crypt Ghouls, and Graveguard. So you can kind of utilize stuff like that to macerate them a little bit. I actually don't love basic throwing axes against Vampire Counts. The reason that Khorne throwing axes dominate in this matchup is the fire damage. Basic throwing axes actually really, I don't think, are all that good here. I actually think that your basic Marauder Javelins are better. Honestly, if you really want to go crazy against the Vampire Counts, the best thing you can bring against Counts is the Marauder Javelins of Tzeentch. I think Marauder Javelins of Tzeentch hard counter the Counts in every way that the Khorne throwing axes do, but better, even. Because one thing you need to be careful of with your Skirmish Cav is breath attacks and Scab's Graith from White Kings. The Marauder Horsemen of Tzeentch have the Overshield. They would actually have taken some model losses, but not 16 like these throwing axes here did. Plus, if there were Scab's Graiths, they can survive Scab's Graith by just taking the damage on the shield and then running away and replenishing. Very aggressive dive from Demon Prince and Nurgle here. I would not be advising this under most circumstances. Yeah, that's good damage on Manfred, but Manfred's going to heal up with Invo probably. Plus, it's a little hard to disengage from Cryptars. And I actually think the Demon Prince just took 1,000 damage from his own throwing axes. Good job, guys. I mean, what the hell is going on here, huh? I guess they're really not liking the subservience to the Demon Prince right now. There's an Unholy Lodestone and a Balefire Corpse cart, which is interesting. I don't know why you need flaming and magic attacks against Warriors of Chaos, but, sure. I mean, why not? So, Forsaken and the Severed Claw getting a good engagement against this Cryptar. Definitely a mistake by Maedon here. Cannot leave, you cannot leave Cryptars unsupported. You just can't do it, man. They've got a lot of HP and they have regen, but people really overestimate how far that goes. You need damage buffering for both of those to really help keep Cryptars on the field long enough to value trade. Because Cryptars will double their value if they heal cap. And they can heal cap pretty quickly with corpse carts by them and with buffering, but if they're just by themselves, this is exactly what happens to them. They just get absolutely shredded by high weapon strength and missile play. You gotta play very, very together as Counts. You have to keep your formations very disciplined. You have to know where your corpse carts are positioned at all times. I would not bring a Balefire. I would just focus on double Unholy Lodestone. That way you have, like, maximum passive heal coverage and Vigor Mortis coverage. I guess, I mean, you got the Vigor Mortis on this thing, but the not having the passive heals and extra leadership is a little painful. You get a +4 from the Unholy Lodestone, which I think is worth it. And then the extra .05 is nice because it's a decent chunk for the Cryptars. You can see that they were struggling there for a minute, but now they're actually gaining a lot of HP here. And hanging in real nice. Knights of the Brazen Throne charging in from the flank. I don't really think that they're the right call here necessarily, though. KTJ, though, is kind of bullying this Counts build. We'll see how far that goes, though. Counts can come back from a lot of really ugly positions, so... it can be a little hard to read the battlefield against them, to be honest. Because they can just hang in for deceptively long periods of time. Another Necromancer with Forbidden Rod, so it's just a maxed out magic build, which is kind of cool to see, actually. Manfred already functionally has Infinite Wand with Sword of Unholy Power. With the Forbidden Rod Necromancers, dude, you're gonna see Purple Sons of Xerius and Gaze and Agash and Raised Dead and Invo all freaking game. It's gonna be a lot of heals, a lot of damage. It's just going to come down to whether any units are going to be left alive on the ground here for the undead. They've lost so much already. They don't have anything holding the number 2. I mean, it's 3 zombies. That's nothing, man. Those zombies are going to die in record time against, like, a single Forsaken unit. Go to intercept back here. Bearmen and Forsaken attacking the Dire Pack, and the Marauder Horsemen just sitting in there and attacking. People really overestimate how good the Dire Pack is. Strong unit, but A couple of Marauder Horsemen will usually be able to beat them, because Tower Pack have awful melee defense, so Marauder Horsemen can actually punch through the melee defense of those guys fairly reliably. Cryptars crumbling out, not quite getting their value back, I don't think. Yeah, only 600. And these charges from the Knights, kind of getting stoppered up. I was about to compliment them. It looked like they were really going to get deep in there and kind of bully these undead units, but for whatever reason, they just kind of bounce off the back of this, and Manfred with the Graveguard great weapons here, they might be able to grind down the Knights of the Brazen Throne here. Knights of the Brazen Throne are really not that good against the Vampire Counts, actually. For precisely this reason, a Cryptor getting on top of them is pretty devastating. These guys are a fairly hard to maneuver unit because they have a very bad turn speed. It takes them ages to turn around. Bad acceleration, and their speed getting lowered by the poison means they're not outpacing the Cryptors. If you want a cavalry unit against the Vampire Counts, you want to bring the Rotting Riders or just a basic Rot Knight. Knights of the Brazen Throne are better in theory than they are in practicality here. Gaze and Nagash just blasts the Demon Prince out of the sky, and that is going to be a massive issue. Manfred is really healthy. He's got 3,100 value, too. Rotting Riders are here, though. Okay, that's nice. Let's go. Let's go. Not a lot of bodies on the ground for the undead. They are basically completely gassed on the ground. They did all in pretty hard on Manfred and his magic, so definitely not great. You got the Rotting Riders chasing down the Black Knights and finding the Corpse Cart as it's coming back in. This Corpse Cart's dying was huge. Getting rid of the passive healing for the Counts is nice, but really it's the Vigor Mortis that you want to get rid of, because that gives perfect vigor to undead units in the aura. And perfect vigor is absolutely broken in this game, so anytime you can get rid of it, you're having a pretty good day at the office. Manfred is trying to attack Blood Beasts. Love me some Blood Beasts. They're just attacking zombies right now, which isn't great, but at least they're attracting Manfred's attention for now. That's going to give the Warriors of Chaos time to secure the #1, maneuver some of their other units elsewhere to the important zones of the battlefield, but I think KOTJ just has this game in the bag now. I think Maedon is running out of room despite the fact that he killed the Demon Prince of Nurgle. Manfred's getting pushed around a little bit, and the Knights of the Brazen Throne and the Blood Beast might not even let him off the ground. He's at 1,300 HP, and he's starting to crumble. He might not be coming back. And that would basically guarantee the win. It's already hard enough with the Rotting Riders dominating the field, and all of the objectives being locked up by some decent infantry. Ooh, Manfred, he's hanging in there. 3,700 value on him. Blood Beast was 738. They get such amazing value against big stuff. I really love Blood Beasts as a counter to SEs, honestly. They do shockingly well. They have a lot of weapon strength, guys. They hit pretty freaking hard, even with the Swarm of Flies debuff. You can see their melee attack is still fairly juicy. They're just really good generalists, man, and the speed on the Blood Beast is nice. Really, really nice, and they're a very solid price point. Very, very friendly unit to be using. Good shock damage, decent sustainability, great animations, fast, pretty high health also. I mean, honestly, in terms of monstrous infantry units, Blood Beasts are actually on the upper end of the HP spectrum. Yeah, the width for the Vampire Counts faded out pretty quickly. You know, none of the Forsaken really value traded amazingly. They didn't really get their value back, but they kill a lot of bodies here, and it's hard to trust values against undead. Like I said, really tough to read, so you just kind of have to play the battlefield as you see it, as best you can. I don't know about the knights early on. Honestly, I'd have just saved up for Aeson immediately, and then gone Ronic Riders, and maybe brought the knights. I think you should cut knights and just bring more blood beasts. The blood beasts will come in and they'll just slap the hell out of a Cryptor. I'm telling you, dude, the weapon strength on a blood beast is way better than the Cryptor's sustainability. In just a pure 1v1, the Cryptors will probably outlast a blood beast, but just for the ability to maneuver the battlefield quickly and answer to different areas in moments of crisis, I think they're really good against counts. They'll slap some stuff up for sure. Is cart horde spam with double scab the only way to run counts? No, it's not. I actually do think the double necromancer is deceptively powerful. This is how I run the double necromancer, though. I'm going to give you forbidden sauce. One of my favorite strats, actually, is Red Duke, Hellsteed, Gaze, Raise Dead, Invo. Get rid of Foe Seeker. You bring El Sif, because if your opponent didn't go for a super saucy combat character, El Sif gets the melee defense, phys res, and speed low enough that Red Duke on the Hellsteed can just fly in and beat the crap out of anything. He's really good at it. Love him to death for it. Instead of doing the double White King, you do the double Necromancer. But you cut everything except Master of the Dead. Right, yeah, Master of the Dead is the radius. And you put them on the corpse cards, dude. I mean, that's literally all you do. I mean, they're 950. But they will actually heal because of the regeneration from the corpse cart. So you Forbidden Rot on these guys. And they actually have better stats than regular corpse carts. So they're deceptively hard to kill. Like, compare these guys' corpse cart stats at 33 to the other one, which has no weapon strength also, mind you. And also has substantially worse defensiveness. I mean, they're not going to win any fights in melee, but they actually are going to survive a little bit better. And with bodies around them, Master of the Dead and Unholy Lodestone are both going to stack. And you're going to be giving not 0.05 healing, but 0.1 healing to all of your stuff, which means Cryptors are going to be functionally impossible to kill. Back in the day, I used to run the Bloodbrute Behemoth all the time because Strength from Flesh was a 0.2 heal. And this thing was freaking invincible unless your opponent could shoot it off the map. And Cryptors are the 0.2 heal from all of the additional sources with the Unholy Lodestone, Master of the Dead, and their own regen. You'll thump. Your opponent's going to really suffer with those guys running around. And you can just fill out with your zombies and your spears. I really love Konigstein Stalkers, personally. Great unit. You can just do this, honestly. One Graveguard is nice. Like, maybe a Halberd, because you do want something to be anti-large proper. And you just have the Konigstein Stalkers and the Cryptars posted up over the Necromancers, so they always have, like, poison and a little bit of AP around them. And they'll be a really solid set. Now, you can't unsummon and super cheese with the magic, but it's really not the end of the world because, generally speaking, Counts are the kind of faction where if you outlast your opponent's early trade attempts and you get into the later stages of the game and still have an appreciable number of, like, chaff units and additional reinforcements on the field, you're probably already in a position to just win the game even without additional sources of magic. It's just kind of how counts work. I actually really like Cairn Wraiths for counts. It's shockingly effective. One of the only good ethereal units in the game, in fact. Crypt Ghouls are pretty good cap weight. I don't super think you need a bunch of them, but like 1 or 2 can be useful. A little sad I can't fit the Sternsman in here, but this is like kind of the vibe of my build. I just cut, I go up or down on the number of Direwolves or Fellbats, depending on how many skirmishers my opponent has, or what kind of quality skirmishers it is. If it's like Illyrian Reaver Horse Archers, I'm not going to be bringing many Fellbats in Dire Pack. They're not going to really win. But against Marauder Horsemen, a Fellbat and a Direwolf is actually more than a match for the numbers that your opponent's going to be throwing forward. I don't super love Black Knights against Walk. There's some matchups where they're okay, though. Against Warriors of Chaos, I just mix in another Graveguard Great Weapon and just kind of run something like this. You just got all these durable healing units. You got Vargeist for a little shock damage. And some units that can kind of go back and attack a Soul of Damnation or something. Red Duke also has Gaze in a Gash to hit artillery as well. Or casters or whatever else you want to shoot. Raise Dead and Invo are always good. Fairly durable Lord. And a good combo piece. He's just really solid overall. Street Going Ghoul King, though. Probably the best Lord, truthfully, for vampire counts. Little hard to fit everything in here. Bit frustrating. TBH. So you can cut that and give Spirit Leech and just get another Skeleton Spear. Give a couple Chevrons or something. You can Chevron the zombies. An extra 1 leadership on your zombies is going to make all the difference, right? But yeah, Ghoul King is great because he doesn't even need to heal himself. He's got Hunger and Regeneration, so he's got a lot of durability on his own. He's actually really good at running around and just Spirit Leeching and diving on top of stuff and Death Shrieking everything to death. He's a really good sniper character. I go Red Duke because he's my bestie. He's my fave. Really fun character that I don't see people bring a lot, you know, but any of the Vampire Counts Lords are good. The only one who's maybe not that strong is the basic Vampire Lords are pretty weak. Necrarch Vampire Lord is kind of bad. He's just not super strong in any one area. He's got some cool abilities and magic recharge and whatnot. Cool spells, but I don't know. He's whatever. Von Karstein is good if you expect an Air Force, because he has Storm of the Night, which is Tempest. Just a bound Tempest, so you don't even spend WOM on it. Blood Dragon Lord is like a hybrid, he's like a hybrid Lord Sniper, but also like a debuff character, because he has Helmet Discord. Vlad is actually okay in a few matchups. He's basically the undead Sigvald. I don't think he's great, though. I think he's a little worse than Sigvald. I couldn't really tell you why, because he really is basically the same character. He's just got AP damage, unlike Sigvald does. I don't know, man. People just blob on Vlad, and he never gets to do anything. Kembler's got matchups where he's really good. Manfred with his infinite WOM. It's really, really strong. Isabella's probably one of the weaker characters, because she doesn't have a dragon option. If you could bring her as a legendary hero, that would be awesome, because she has Blood Chalice, which is really good. You just don't really need to use that normally on your heroes. Like, none of these heroes really need healing. They're all fairly self-sufficient. You're really only ever bringing Necromancers and White Kings anyways, so Isabella as a legendary lord is kind of a waste. I actually think Helman Gorst is actually pretty good. You bring him on the Gorst cart with Liber Noctis, and you go for, like, Gaze into Gash spam. He can actually blast the hell out of people with this. It's really funny. He's basically like a moving artillery piece with this. And he's got the Reliquary Corruption, which is a Mortis Engine effect. So he can actually mess some people up if they're not playing really carefully around him. But yeah, I mean, that's just the versatility of the faction. It's all tied up in the Lords. The rest of the roster is, like, give or take. You're mostly going with Cryptars, Vargeis, the odd Blood Knight, and Graveguard or two. And then just tons of, like, utter garbage to, like, get underneath all of your fights. I mean, it's functionally infinite Winds of Magic because it gives you reserves. The Sword of Unholy Power gives you 0.1 per second. I mean, you know, it doesn't sound as huge in practice as it really is in game. Every 10 seconds you get one Wind of Magic. That doesn't sound like much, but Life Leeching actually gives you 2.5 every time you cast a spell. So you can cycle Sword and Life Leeching with just lots of spell casting and really get Manfred going with some of that. Super effective with him. And then if you do the Necromancers with the rods, boy howdy, are you going to be throwing down some laying pipe with Manfred. You know. Right, let's get back into replays. Spent a lot of time talking about counts. Counts are just fun, dude. Cool faction. Really loved that build from KOTJ. I just don't like the Knights. That's like the only thing. They're, again, better in theory than they are in practice. Knights of the Brazen Throne are good against factions that suffer against terror. If there's nothing to terror out, they're actually kind of terrible. Because they'll dive real deep with the Murderous Charge and then just get stuck and never do anything useful the rest of the game. They just die and then you cry. Empire versus Zerv. Skaven versus Empire is a fun one. This is one of those matchups where the shooting for one side is just markedly better, and it's the Skaven every time. Natty Bubos and Plagueclaw Catapults, in fact, by themselves will shut down the Empire pretty freaking hard. Stuff like Hawk and Long Rifles just get absolutely annihilated by the Natty Bubos. Because these little guys have Stalk and Snipe, so basically impossible to do anything about them until they open up on you, and even then, you have to get in range and spot them, and then you can counter shoot them, or you have to dive on top of them with something, and you've always got the Skaven with, like, Flensing Ruin and Howling Warp Gale to, like, lock down flyers and whatever. Grinding through all the Clan Rats can be kind of a pain. There's a lot of Storm Vermin Halberd in this build, which I think is a pretty good call. Maybe going with 4 in the opener is a little much. I really think 2 is all you need, and then you can maybe have the other 2 in reserve. Then maybe you could slap in another Jezzail. Like, just a basic one. Light Wizard is here. He's got Shems and Net of Amontok. Shems is going to be really good against Ikit. Oh, man, but you don't want to leave Light Wizard to get shot up like this. Really good volley right out the gate from the Natty Bubo Sharpshooters. About 650 HP off the Light Wizard. And he's going to be peeling out of here, but Storm Demon is going to come from downtown. Doesn't make contact, though. Huge dodge. And look at the Wolf Rats instantly terror route. Boris is great, dude. Crush the Weak, Blood Roar, White Cloak of Ulrich. I mean, the debuffs from Boris are absolutely rancid. They're so strong. It's almost impossible to last through it all. Shems, double Shems just killed both or killed all 4 of the Plague Claw models. That's actually kind of wild. Holy crap. Good to know. Okay. Well, now you unsummon the Plague Claw Catapult and just resummon it back in later. Losing it is not the end of the world. That was actually a decent amount of magic that the Empire just had to use. I mean, it's nice to have something to snipe the artillery. I don't know if it's really that important against Skaven. I guess we'll see. Truthfully, you know what? Honestly, as good as Boris is, really what you want to bring in this matchup is a Master Engineer on the Steam Tank. I don't know if you guys have ever watched what the Master Engineer on the Steam Tank can do, but I promise you, bring that guy against the Skaven as the Empire, because he will farm value. He will get upwards of 500 kills against the Skaven without even breaking a sweat. He might even be able to go upwards of 700 if you just have him running around in melee all game, because he'll just, like, run over all the Skaven slaves and then go after Storm Vermin and blah, 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 blah. Sunmaker's out trying to hit the Storm Vermin. A little inaccurate up to this point, but now starting to make contact. Something to keep in mind, Empire has a lot of characters with restock. An Engineer in the back pocket, just to bring out and give restocks to the Sunmaker, is actually really safe and really effective. One of my favorite things to do whenever I play the Empire, which granted isn't all that often, but can definitely help pretty tremendously, because Sunmaker doesn't have a lot of ammo. A little bit of friendly fire. You gotta be really careful. Sunmaker friendly fires a lot, because the missile, it fires a ton of these missiles, and the spread is absolutely ridiculous on it. Boris gets hit by the Flensing Ruin, but he doesn't even care. He's also got the passive heal from the Midland Rune Fang, and he just terror-routed like everything here, even the Rat Ogres. Rat Ogres have Frenzy, so ITP for a moment, but, I mean, all of these leadership debuffs are just absolutely ruining them right now. What are the Natty Bubo Sharpshooters hitting? Oh, they're going after Huntsmen. Which isn't bad. I mean, that's the way to go about it. You definitely want to clear your opponent's shooting, but you just like to see something a little bit better, and this Sunmaker pick is actually coming in super clutch right now, because it's demolishing the X Factor for the Skaven, which is their Storm Vermin core. So they brought a lot of these guys, and one of them is basically dead. Another was getting thumped by the Sunmaker for a minute there. Where the hell did it go? Did it just die completely? Oh, here it is. It's routing away right now. Wow, with only 55 value, that is brutal. Now Natty Bubos get revealed, and Sunmaker could shoot them. It's doing God knows what. I don't know why it's shooting here when these guys have been routing for so long. I guess it's at the apex of its range, just having a little bit of trouble getting the shots in. Empire's in a pretty good spot right now. They got a big lead. Empire is really going deep with Boris now. And here's the problem. You got Flensing Ruin, but where's Howling Warpgale, dude? I mean, Empire's got a lot of flying characters. Even if you think they're going to go for something that isn't a flyer, you bring Howling Warpgale anyways, just in case. Because what you do is you're running away with Ikit, just like you are right now. Like, you're running. Your opponent's like, oh, I got you now. And they, like, dive deep with Boris, trying to get after this guy. Well, what you do is you save up, you summon out the Teethbreakers, Rattling Guns, and then you overcast Howling Warpgale. Let me bring up Howling Warpgale real quick. Overcast Howling Warpgale is 9 WOM, and it locks a unit down for 28 seconds. Which means the Teethbreakers coming out of reserve, they'll get like 3 volleys off. They will actually they won't one-shot Boris. But they'll one-round him. All you need is 1 Overcast Howling Warpgale and Teethbreakers on Boris for a full, like, round of volleys, and they'll delete him. He'll be gone, and then you can trundle Ikit back in and start mopping up and dropping more magic and whatnot, doing whatever you need. Really strong. strategy going for that. Storm Vermin get deleted by the frickin' Sunmaker, but so do the Flagellants, but just because the Empire has plenty of, you know, they've got their own little man-tide going right now. They'll be able to replace their losses, while the Skaven are starting to really run out of steam. I mean, even if they had more numbers, Boris is still here, and he's going to continue to cause issues with all the debuffs. Oh my god, and Ikit's running away again. Ooh, he dodges an attack there, but he doesn't really have anywhere to go. Ooh, and an Empire Knight actually finds the Natty Bubo sharpshooters. That's painful, man. Huge value for the Empire here. Not quite killing the unit yet, though, I will say, but now they're getting some extra charges in. 1,500 on Natty Bubos. Empire Knights with a 1,100 value. Oh, yeah, now the Natty Bubos sit for a little too long, and the Empire Knights are basically going to finish them here. At the very least, they're going to rout. They've lost a lot of models. It's going to be a while before they rally, too, and Empire Knights are getting real frisky here. This is why I think that you're better with just the 2 Storm Vermin, because they're a little too slow to really effectively maneuver around and help you out. The Rat Ogres early would be a little bit safer as your sweeper unit, because they're less easily targeted by the Sunmaker. So you have your Rat Ogres chilling in the back line, running around and intercepting the Empire Knights. And the Empire Knights are getting to just push past all this infantry. Like, why fight the Storm Vermin when you can just go somewhere else and then get a absolutely devastating rear charge against blobs of Skaven infantry are just totally caught out here. Absolutely ruinous damage that they're going to be taking here. Clan Rats are going to hold a little longer, but the Skaven slaves are all running, and the Clan Rats won't be too far behind them. They're really not brave folk, so... Night Runner slings are in. We'll see what they can do. Storm Vermin Halberds trying to hold on. Empire Knights coming to just push them away from the Huntsmen. Also giving time for the Great Swords to move up, which is a good call. Empire Knights definitely not loving this fight, but it'll be okay for the Empire in the long run. They're up by so much, it doesn't even matter. And Outrider Grenade Launchers coming in now. They're going to be a good sweeper for any... beat up remaining Skaven units that might be hanging around on the battlefield. Outrider Grenade Launchers are just wickedly effective against light armor. And even against something like a Storm Vermin Halberd with the 90 armor, they do decent damage. A little less effective, but still pretty solid, because the explosive damage is actually really high. So that splash damage is really efficient. The missile damage being as low as it is really not that big of a deal for the Outriders. I don't know why they're shooting their great swords, but they decided that they have a little bit of a rivalry going with these guys, apparently. So some friendly fire going in there, but not the end of the world. Empire Knights are just running around getting whatever remaining value they can. 1,600 on this one. How are the others doing? 589 is not great, but not terrible. 349 on this guy. See Flagellants and more Great Swords coming in. And Rat Ogres just running around on the outside. Sunmaker got unsummoned. Empire with a huge, huge supply surplus here. Oh, and he's got a chieftain in the woods. I actually really love chieftains, man. They're dirt cheap. They can save your bacon if your lord gets sniped. That's, of course, totally dependent on what's going on with the rest of the battle. Because if, like, your forces are just getting absolutely run over, and your entire formation is just in the toilet, there's nothing you can do to help yourself. Even with the power grab leadership. You know, like I said, Skaven, man, you know, not so good once they start losing. Especially if they lose their characters. They're going to be running all freaking day. And it's going to look way worse for you than maybe the final tally really might be reflecting if you're playing any other faction, you know. When you lose a Skaven, you can lose really hard, but they are a fun collection of units, and they can definitely perform. It just takes a lot to get used to with them. They get punished for things that other factions don't, but they do similarly have some benefits to them that allows them to thrive in areas that other factions simply can't. So it's give and take. Leans a little more to the take side of things often, but once you've really got your hands on the Skaven and you like fully understand their mechanics, you can really start to push people around. There's just always going to be some matchups that are pretty awful for you. It was a glitch? Oh, okay. Didn't expect flying because it was Steam Tank. That's understandable. Just bring Howling Warp Gale anyways. Always bring it. If your opponent has Flying Lords that are fairly common, don't not bring it. You know, I mean, I know that's a terrible double negative, but it's just a cheap spell, man. It's cheap. It's powerful. It can get you a huge game-winning play just like right off the bat if you use it right. And yeah. It's also not bad for proccing the Musk of Fear. Because it's also fairly cheap. It's really not that expensive at all. I actually think Warp Lightning might be a little bit better against the Empire, to be honest, than Flensing Ruin. Because if it's a Steam Tank Commander, the only way you're killing the Empire's Steam Tank Commander... Where is this guy? He's got a dumb amount of HP. I mean, he's got 9,100. It's a lot to get through, and he's unbreakable, plus this directional shield makes him pretty resilient to shooting. Magic is a good way to hurt him, but really the best you can do is just beat him to death with like a Mutant Rat Ogre. These Mutant Rat Ogres are actually pretty good single entities. Very good for running around and just like ganging up on stuff. I think they're worth it. This is not the worst matchup for Gorich either. Now that sounds kind of wild, but he's not terrible with the evisceration at clearing out state troopers and great swords, and even better, evisceration will just annihilate Empire Knight units if he gets stuck in. He's a little expensive though. Gorich does cost a lot of money, even if you pare him down. There's also one other thing you can do, which is Pack Masters on the Brood Horrors. You just bring them with their running with the pack, and you can do a shot collar on each of these guys, and just have them run around and chase the Steam Tank Commanders down. And they're also pretty good against Boris as well, because they give ITP to units that are Molder monsters, and they are Molder monsters themselves. Normally they can't use this on themselves, unless this is changed in the last few patches. But they can buff each other, so you can just run in, shot collar one another, and then they can actually fight Boris off pretty effectively. And they regenerate, so decent little goon squad. I do think having something like that in the back pocket's not a bad idea. I would still do the Mutant Rat Ogre personally. Just because these guys are so strong, man. I mean, they just hit like a truck, and they have magic attacks, so they get around a lot of shenanigans that the Packmasters simply don't. Packmasters do not have the magic damage, so if your opponent, for whatever reason, has a Jade Wizard, which, honestly, Jade Wizards aren't that uncommon with Steam Tank Commanders, and they have, like, Flesh to Stone, the Mutant Rat Ogres can actually still hit around that Phys Res, right? The magic attacks, which can mean that you don't just get bullied by this guy, because this will absolutely annihilate your whole army. Master Engineer is honestly still kind of broken. He's going under the radar because Empire in general is kind of on the weaker end of the win rates right now. That sucks, Zerv. I'm so sorry, dude. It happens, trust me. It's always the game where you're like, nah, I don't need it, that, you know, you end up going, you know what I really needed? That thing that I didn't bring for the one single time. It actually happened to me in the last stream. If you go watch the tournament stream from, yesterday? You'll watch me get my absolute shit rocked by the Wood Elves in the one matchup where I didn't bring a Herald and Scylla. It really broke my heart, but it is what it is. You just gotta deal with it, and you just gotta learn from your mistakes in this game, because you're gonna make them. The less ego you have about it, and the more time you spend actually like adjusting your play style and playing against the people more than just playing against the factions, the better off you'll be, because domination mode is incredibly flexible in terms of builds. There's definitely, like, always going to be strong units depending on matchups, but broadly speaking, you can spitball an awful lot in domination mode. And you'll see a lot of different builds depending on who you're playing. Once you learn what people like and what they prefer, then you can start counterpicking the people themselves. That's when you can really start to get in their head. And go to, like, the next level. Because the really good players like Daniken and Berserk, Anticity, Tim the Wilder, they really are actually paying attention to what you're doing on a regular basis with your builds, and they're adjusting around that, I promise you. So start doing it in the new player tournaments, because you'll get tons of practice, and you'll still see tons of funky stuff. I actually really want to watch this one. I'd love to see one more Skaven game before we do maybe, what time is it? Can't do too much longer of a stream. How long have I even been going now? Oh, 2 hours. Yeah, I can. We'll do 2 more replays before we get to semifinals and then the finals, because I do, of course, want to cover those. We got Manlom and Dirk. Both guys who have been mainstays in the new player tournaments for a while now. Dirk has just been in and out. He just plays semi-frequently every couple of new player tournaments he's around. Really solid high elf player is usually what he's on. I think he's played ogres or maybe something else before. I can't remember what faction was on. It might have actually been the Skaven, but it's kind of hard to remember after a while. You know, you see so many people in these tournaments. Just really nice. I love the RTK new player tournaments. You get so many new and different people, and it's a really good jumping off point. There's so many people who have tournament wins now who were, you know, right there with all the people who were playing in the one today, just trying to figure out what exactly it is that they're doing here. Avalanche mortars are a great anti-infantry unit. Do not ever waste their ammo, though, on stuff like Lothar and Skycutters. Teethbreakers actually have been in position to shoot the Skycutters, and the opportunity is being passed up a little bit here. Bit of a shame. Manlom is moving in looking for that Howling Warp Gale. It is pretty short cast distance. 100 meters really isn't that far, to be honest. You gotta move in very aggressively to get stuff like that off, but kind of missed his opportunity. And the Skycutters are pretty fortunate to be getting out of here. Having taken damage, but really nothing too terrible. And now the Avalanche Mortars really need to set up, because they need to just blast some of these ships company and the archers out of here. I'd prefer to see the archers targeted first. It actually does look like he's going to swap onto them immediately here. Ikit is maybe being used as bait against Tyrion. Tyrion gets hit by the Teethbreakers a little bit. This is really sketchy for the Skaven. You cannot do stuff like this. Your formations are absolutely paramount to your survival. You just need to move up here. Like, just take ground with your clan rats. And make sure that you don't get your weapon teams, like, stuck inside these dudes when you're just trying to shoot. The only time you want clan rats and Skaven slaves and stuff on top of your weapon teams is if they're about to get jumped on by something. Then you do want to move a unit over the top of them, and it's a really good defensive strategy. Manlom is 1,200 supplies. Rat Ogre time, just one Rat Ogre would be really nice to have. Need to start getting some mass in here. Clan Rats are getting shot by the archers. Avalanche Mortars are taking a long time to really get going. They've used, full volley just shooting Sky Cutters up to now, but here they're starting to get their damage in. You can see how effective they are against infantry. This is where they shine. So good at popping tightly bunched infantry. Great damage against this archer unit. Good brass orb in the ship's company. Start looking to hit these other archers. And the ship's company are not that dangerous of a unit. They're just bodies for the High Elves. High Elves honestly shouldn't even be engaged all the way up here. Capping this #1 objective was definitely the right call. It is nice to have the #2, but you capped the #2 without getting all your infantry into range of all these missile units. Truth be told, what the High Elves needed to do here is cap these 2 points, push a couple of infantry units into the trees here, just on like the blue line or something. Get out of here, Index. And then the rest of the formation should actually just kind of pull back and just take up a very deep set defensive position around their own spawn points, just to force the weapon teams forward. Because if you've got your units just kind of positioned back here, he's got to basically trot like up to this objective to start getting any work done with the weapon team. And that actually does mean that his front line needs to be even farther forward. So then you're starting to talk about the Skaven being stretched out enough that you can start getting a proper surround on their army. And if you can surround the Skaven and dive from every angle in one consolidated push, they have an awful time trying to stop that. It is absolutely brutal for them. Tyrion, I don't super love here. Natty Bubo's, I think, got waddled forward a little too deep, and Tyrion in the ocean, it's kind of beat up on him. Burning Head is roasting an awful lot of Skaven slaves and whatnot, but I really don't even like Burning Head against the Skaven, to be honest. It's fine. I actually don't think it's nearly as important as character sniping spells. I actually think Deathcasters and just Spirit Leeching Ikit off the field early is really a pretty great way to go about it, because, oh god, I hate having to pause the game this many times, but Spirit Leech upgraded has 300 meter cast range. I mean, you can be a million miles away from the Teethbreakers, and the Natty Bubo sharpshooters, and still be doing damage to Ikit. And the more beat up Ikit is, and with the least amount of, you know, deep set diving from your own Lord character, the better. Tyrion is fine against Skaven. I really would prefer to see another character, though. Like, Sunfang is nice for a little bit of chaff clear. It's not, like, amazing, though. It's on a fairly long cooldown. You have to be in melee for it to recharge. I don't think Stinged Ground, Faint and Riposte, or Foe Seeker are particularly useful either. You want to just get as many bodies as you can against Skaven. Because if they crowd out the entire battlefield, you're going to cry a little bit. If you've got fairly equal numbers to them, and you can also swarm their backline, that's where you can really get after them and lock them out. This is not looking great for the High Elves, to be honest, but if they could just finish off these weapon teams, they might completely flip this. Because while Burning Head isn't, like, super great against the Skaven for anything other than just clearing out bodies, and it lacks maybe some of the utility in performing other roles that other Lords of Magic offer, if you can kill the weapon teams and then all you have to do is just Burning Head everything off the field, that's pretty doable for them. You know, it's not abysmal. But Tyrion gets blasted here. The Deep Breakers get a nice little position. And that's what's so powerful about these guys, man. I mean, they just need a few volleys to get this kind of value. They're 1050, I believe. They've got Concealment Bombs, which is actually really powerful because you summon them in. They go invisible for 73 seconds, and they can go anywhere they want at that point. And they get Unspottable and Stalk, which is really nice. Because Stalk is already really strong. Unspottable basically means that units don't see these guys until they're within, like, 35 meters of them. It is devastatingly close, so they can be very, very hard to find with the bombs active. Natty Boobos are probably... Yeah, they actually do rally. I was thinking they might route a little bit longer, but rallying here with a few models is good for the Skaven because they can start shooting the Fireborn here. Avalanche Mortars are not great against Cavalry because Cavalry are pretty quick, and these guys have a really high arc of fire. It's very dodgeable for fast units, but with how desperate the situation is for the High Elves, just like one good volley from Avalanche Mortars could just finish off the Fireborn here. And then the Skaven can just, you know, I mean, they basically have the triple cap already, don't they? They do, in fact, have a triple cap, so oof. It doesn't even look like you need to shoot the Fireborn. You got plenty of Rat Ogres and Storm Vermin. Ixis Triads are in here. Really cool to see these guys. Pretty underrated ROR. You don't see them too often anymore. I honestly don't know why. I think they just kind of fell out of favor because the Skaven in general were just not getting picked that much by people. But they've definitely got some teeth, man. Even if all they're doing is debuffing armor with the Weeping Blade, it's really good for Skaven, because Rat Ogres actually do have a majority AP, but any extra damage, super awesome for these high weapon strength units. And then obviously Clan Rats benefit immensely from the fact that minus 50% armor is just absolutely filthy, you know. Something like the Fireborn going down from 120 to 60 is misery incarnate. It is absolutely one of the most painful things to see in the entire game. Just watching your high-tier units get turned into pumpkins by, you know, just a couple little rats with pointy sticks and some weird little magical imbuements. Morskatar's Hellion is on the field. It's a pretty cool ROR unit. It's got this Warp Discharge, which is like a radius that procs around it. It does pretty good damage. It's good at clearing out cavalry, actually. Not so great against infantry. It's okay. Obviously, since it's one of the mutant rat ogres, it's really good against single entities, and it also has the zap ability, which increases cooldowns. I really like it against the High Elves. High Elves have a lot of characters with a lot of reliance on abilities, spells, all of that and more gets shut down by the cooldown increase. It's basically a walking silence monster. It does have to make contact for it to activate, but it's really not that big of an ask for it. It's really quick. 70 speed is damn fast. You know, a lot of single entities would be pretty envious to have that much. I think it's even faster than Scylla. I could be wrong about that, though, but I'm pretty sure Scylla is somewhere around the 60 range. 64, 65. The extra little bit that the Morskatar's Hellion actually does make a big difference for what it can and can't catch. And I bring up Scylla because if you've watched my last couple of streams, last couple of streams, not just the last one really, you'll see that Scylla is actually really pretty terrifying single entity, and the Morskatars Hellion is pretty much the same archetype of unit in a lot of ways. Just a little bit more expensive is all. Really great Skaven play. I mean, good layering. You see Rat Ogres, they're fighting against some pretty tough stuff. There's Swordmasters of Hoeth, Spearmen. There's also a lot of little Raki running around underneath these fights. Just constantly giving damage mitigation to the Rat Ogres by being nearby. Blocking attacks from these elite High Elf units, and the Rat Ogres are just feasting as a result. This was honestly a really good matchup for the Skaven in Warhammer 2, and really don't think it's changed all that much. There's just a lot of moving parts that the High Elves have to keep in mind, and the Skaven with their weapon teams, man, all it takes is a couple slip-ups, and it's GG, good night for the High Elves. I don't know if you need 2 Eshin Triads. I'd rather cut this Eshin Triad and get another Rat Ogre, but worked out well, so who am I to really say anything, right? Maybe a few too many Clan Rat reinforcements in reserve. It's arguable, though. Skaven just stuffing the field with bodies is always semi-effective at the very least, so can't knock it if it works, really. Yeah, just nothing worked for the High Elves. I don't think this is a particularly well-tuned build against the Skaven either. Truthfully, what I think would work really well for the High Elves right now against Skaven, it's just a Life Mage. I actually think Armor of the Stars is a really good idea here, actually. So keep that on her. Book of Hoeth, Earthblood, Regrowth. And I actually think this is a Sea Elemental matchup. I know you gotta worry about Teeth Breakers, but the Writhing Mist and the Perfect Vigor, Strider, good speed on this thing is really tough to stop, and it's got crazy high mass at 6,000. It can just push right through the front line of the Skaven and just immediately start nibbling on weapon teams. If you can kill the Teeth Breakers early, and this thing just gets to rampage over the rest of the Skaven army, you're going to see it get some absolutely ridiculous value totals. I really actually love, unlike a lot of shooting factions where you don't want big centerpiece monsters, against the Skaven it's not as bad of an idea because their leadership is so much lower than factions like the Dowie and the Empire, so you can get terror routes a little bit more readily. You can punish a little bit better. And then these type of abilities are just very effective in general, and then you can just, you know, fill in with ship's company underneath, and then you don't have to risk your lord like Tyrion to run in and start doing all this heavy lifting without a bunch of mass to get him out of any bad situations. You can still go for the archers. They're not bad here. Rangers actually are good in this matchup. It's one of the few where I think Rangers are not abysmal dog shit, to be honest. That's my personal opinion. I know that there are High Elf mains who would disagree with me on that. It's just my experience with Rangers is that they always are massively disappointing. Rahakar's Pride are really important against Skaven because they cause fear and have Mighty Roar. Really good for debuffing leadership. I don't think you need Illyrian Reaver Archers, to be honest. Decent unit against Skaven. They're like good poke against Rat Ogres from a distance, but that's why you have Archers here anyways. Just get regular Illyrian Reavers and just swarm the backline with these guys. I don't know if you need Swordmasters. Probably the Puremain Company. Sundered Armor is really good, so you can run around and use them to like help Ranger positions out and just run stuff down. I think a Lion Chariot's not a bad idea. Chariots are pretty good against Skaven in general because they do big damage to weapon teams. Especially with a decent amount of mass, you can really push out and through clan rats and anything that might be trying to stop your momentum with the chariot, and then you can just kind of trounce through everything and run out the other side of the formation and kind of laugh about it. One bolt thrower could be kind of useful, and then maybe a silver helm. Ooh, actually, let's get rid of the Pure Main Company and an Illyrian Reaver Cav and get a couple Oceanids. Maybe get rid of this Ranger. Ugh. Big sad. One ship's company in reserve for the 400 gold. And what can you do up here? Find a little bit more money. Don't really want to cut Book of Hoeth. Maybe just max out on archers, actually. Yeah, just max out on the archers. Why not? And you've got your bodies in reserve. You got all these Illyrian Reaver Cav to put pressure on. Lion Chariot for pressure. Oceanids to help clear out bodies. They're shockingly effective against Storm Vermin. Definitely not the best fight in the world for an Oceanid unit, but with heals and their perfect vigor, they're going to outlast the Storm Vermin usually. And then you got the Sea Elemental for terror, of course. It's really all you need, man. You can do something like this and actually thrive pretty nicely. The other nice thing about the Sea Elemental is that it's grounded, so there's no way to disrupt it for the Skaven. Skaven can, you know, neutralize flying units with Howling Warp Gale. They don't have any snares on the ground, though. Other than Snickitch, but that's just for heroes and lords. He can do it. I can't think of a single other... Oh, actually... They've got warp grinders, but you never see these things. It's very rare. That would be a nice tech piece for the Skaven, for the Sea Elemental, but, you know. There's a lot of reasons that you'd want the warp grinders anyways, but they just don't do a lot of damage, to be honest. Warp grinders in general tend to be a little bit lackluster, I would say. It's okay, Dirk. Skaven are a tricky matchup, and I am serious that the Skaven are really good against High Elves. They tend to be best against other ranged factions. That's where they really thrive. I think High Elves actually need to go for a little bit of a hybrid build against Skaven, with like really cheap missiles and then, you know, a couple big units that can really bully around weapon teams. That's how you do best. Best lore of magic for pure damage capability. I actually think that's the Skaven lore. The Lore of Ruin. Skaven Lore of Ruin is just packed with good damage spells, dude. Warp Lightning is absolutely gross. Super cheap. Really short cooldown. High all AP damage. Devastating against infantry, cavalry, anything that gets caught in it. Cleansing Ruin, great single entity damage. Also fairly good against monstrous units and cavalry. Scorch is really good against low armor stuff, actually. It does a ton of work. Just the basic version. Don't really want to overcast it. I don't know why the overcast is the way it is. Seems a little bugged. Lore of Shadows is good damage. Lore of Metal and Lore of Fire. What else? Lore of Death, I guess, because you got Spirit Leech. Purple Sun is a little better than Fate of Buna now. Buna's gotten nerfed after many years of being way too powerful. Purple Sun got buffed recently, and it took me a while to come around to it, but it really is devastating if you can land a good one. And the Overcast is real cheap compared to the cost of the base version. 18 seconds here, or 18 WOM here, and then 24 for the Overcast, and you get double the duration. So if you got a nice big blob of enemies and you hit a Purple Sun, you will farm value. What else is good for damage? I mean, if you go Croak, Croak actually does a lot of damage, but, you know, it's a little temperamental. Lore of Tempest with Miska and Blizzard is good. Almost all of the lores have a spell that's really good damage. Flames of Asgore is pretty disgusting. Lore of Nurgle has Stream of Corruption and Rancid Visitations. Blight Boil's kind of terrible because it takes like 50 years to hit anything. Lore of Beast has Flock of Doom. Even Lore of Life has Awakening of the Wood. And Shield of Thorns. Damage Reflection's actually really strong. In certain matchups, of course, but this little explosion does a surprising amount of damage, and it lowers speed, so kind of a wombo combo in some regards. Lore of Heavens is Chain Lightning and Comet, and Uranus, so there is no lore that you're gonna be missing an option for good damage. Certainly some have some damage spells that are just kind of bad, like Vile Tide and Brace Scream are pretty terrible. But you do have Traderkin, so you've got one of the best AoE single entity like kill spells in the entire game. There's a little bit of give and take with everything, of course. But generally speaking, you're never lacking for an option, right? Like, you got Tide Call and Kraken's Pull here. Summons technically count as damage too, so just play around with it. Speaking of lores that are good against the Skaven, I mentioned Spirit Leech would have been good for Dirk, but Metal Magic is also good against Skaven because Searing Doom is good against weapon teams. The Overcast version with its explosion damage actually does a ton of work against them. What damage spell has the best value for cost? I mean, it depends on situation. Generally speaking, though, Burning Head and Searing Doom are probably just period the best. Just for your average game, you're really not going to find many situations where you're not able to hit something with Searing Doom or Burning Head and get potentially just disgusting amounts of value from hitting those two spells. And they're both pretty cheap. I mean, Burning Head costs 10 Winds of Magic. Searing Doom costs 6 WOM. And the Overcast, which is also really strong, costs, I think, 10 or 11. It will absolutely fold up an entire fight if you hit a good Searing Doom. I think it's arguably a little overtuned, but there's counterplay to it, so it's not like the most abusive thing in the game. There's, there's always going to be things that are really strong. Just kind of working around it, trying to make sure that it's not, like, too overtuned. That way people can, at the very least, try and dodge some of the damage. You usually are going to be able to move out of the way of Searing Doom, because it does take a little bit of time to start falling. It does cast fairly quickly, but provided your unit isn't, like, completely blobbed up and, like, caught out, you can usually avoid it. At least some of the damage. Where the hell are the, finals and semifinals? Oh, here it is. God, we got so many replays. Let's go ahead and get into the semis and the finals. We haven't actually watched Clipsy today. This is a absolutely abominably terrible matchup for the Beastmen. I mean, this might be one of the worst in the entire game. When I tell you that this is close to unwinnable, I use that very, very, very strictly. Beastmen just don't have a hope against this faction. There's too much healing. White Kings with Scab's Wraith just absolutely annihilate all the low armor infantry units that the Beastmen have. And double Scab's Wraith being cast down something like an Ungor Spear Herd or even a Zangor or a Gore Herd will start just gashing the units. It has a huge cone on it, so it can hit multiple units at once. It's really brutal. Lords are fairly strong. Traderkin is a great spell. I'm just a little afeared that all the invos and the unholy lodestone healing is just going to outlast it. That's usually what happens when I play this matchup. I've played this a decent amount, and I'm a really good Beastman player, and it is every single time. Even against people who may not be the most, like, up-to-the-minute, micro-intensive Vampire Counts players, it's still a grind, dude. The best thing you can hope for is, like, a character snipe early, and then you just, kill some of the characters and find a way to shoot down the Crypt Horrors. No Ungor Raiders, which is a little scary. They're a little vulnerable, though, so maybe they're in reserve and they'll come out later, but they're usually the way the Beastmen kill the Crypt Horrors. Ungor Raiders are cheap, you know, 425 gold. They've got a good rate of fire, and they'll do really excellent damage against the low armor of the Crypt Horrors. And they can kill corpse carts, too, from a distance. The throwing axes are okay. I mean, they can get in there and do work, but they're not really my cup of tea for fighting against the Vampire Counts, because their range is pretty short at 70 meters. They have a little bit of a hard time actually finding good positions to fire from. I mentioned them before, but the Khorne throwing axes are different because they have fire damage, so they just absolutely annihilate everything that has regen, which is like all of the important Vampire Counts units, which is why what may be true for the Cynagors with being a little bit lackluster is the complete opposite for the Khorne throwing axes, despite having the same range and basically the same damage output for the actual missile attack. Because the end result is just wildly different in terms of outcomes. Zombies are chilling. Beastmen, at the very least, with all the Vanguard they've got, did get a nice double cap early, and they do have a good value lead in terms of the objective points. Goreherd are moving in. Zangors are moving in. Actually, you know, I love Zangors. I think they're a pretty underrated unit. I do think having like one or two is good in this matchup, just in case there are Cairn Wraiths or Hex Wraiths or something, but I think if you're gonna bring one of the marked Gore variants, that looks like Scab Scraith shenanigans. That unit is just dead immediately. But yeah, I think Slangors are the way to go, because they're ITP and they get more powerful as they take damage. Brutal Wind of Death. Oh my god. Disgusting. And the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord lands on the ground and is beating up on the Chimera. There are Khorngors here, though, which is nice. Oh my god, 1,600 value already? Okay, this is where maybe the Beastmen find a way in. This is semifinals, too, by the way, guys, so this is like sudden death. Both of these guys did great in bracket to get here, so they're sweating their asses off trying to get this win. Goreherd and Zangor stopping a lot of the units from pushing through to get back here and help the Blood Dragon Lord, but the Chimera's here. Or, sorry, I mean the Chimera is beating up on them. Yeah, and there are Cynagors stopping him up with some Khorngors, but the White Kings are in here helping him out. And there's a zombie summon that got dropped that's also buffering a lot of the damage from the Chimera and the Cynagors. So, you know, despite getting a couple of good engagements and having the value lead, Clipsy is not really in a winning position right now. He's got a lot of uphill work to continue doing here. Throwing axes have been great so far. They've actually gotten really good damage, so it's nice to see. If they can take down the Crypt Horrors and start bringing the Sternsmen down, we could see the Beastmen get into a winning position. Oh, but another Crypt Horror coming in. This Crypt Horror is also really healthy. The Corpse Carts are hanging in there. There's one over here, the other is off on the other side. Toaster could probably rotate this Crypt Ghoul. Although, he's got a Graveguard here, so yeah, moving the Graveguard and keeping the Crypt Ghoul here is a good idea. They're hidden. Maybe they can pull the Goreherd into the zombie and then flank around and loop in for a kill. Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, 1700 value. Chimera flying around, dropping a breath attack on the Stearnsman. Not the best breath attack ever from a Chimera, but still pretty devastating. The breath attacks need to be toned down on these things. They're really stupid. Just way too powerful. It's a really nice Helmet Discord. Just flying overhead and dropping that on the Zangors as you're passing by. Gotta get on the move. You do not want to fight a Chimera. Blood Dragon Lords are really strong in melee combat, but Chimeras, for whatever reason, are just massively overperforming in every facet of the game right now. Although that's a really good pull. Dragging it to the ground, and then 3 Cryptars all over this thing. Traderkin hitting about as big of a Traderkin as you can possibly imagine here, and it's really not doing anything because of all this passive healing. You got Unholy Lodestone, Reliquary Binding is here because of the Mortis engine now. Still no Ungor Raiders. Oh, man. Nothing to shoot the Mortis engine, and yeah, you get some Minotaurs in, but there's Crypt Ghouls here for mass to buffer that out. And Minotaurs actually do take pretty bad damage from the Reliquary Corruption. You can see their HP starting to tick down. Not only do they have to deal with the Cryptars healing through their damage and smacking them in the face, but they're taking like, what, 10, 11 damage with each tick. Which adds up, which really adds up on these guys, because with 16 models, the HP damage gets spread out pretty evenly. And then they start to drop all of their models at about the same time, and they can really fold up with one concentrated push from some of the Vampire Count units. And normally, this would not be a bad situation to be in for Beastmen. You know, look, they're about even in terms of value, but Lord's getting chased down here. Blood Dragon Lord might even finish him here. Hellsteeds are really fast, even on the ground, so he's staying pretty even with this guy. I'd have tried to go for the kill. Getting the kill there would have been a guaranteed win for sure, because leadership penalties would have been way too bad for any of these units to even be rallying here. More Crypt Ghouls coming in, Goreherd's routing. Chimera just got pummeled into the dirt by the Cryptars. And Senegors are just piling in, and that's great. Senegors are normally an excellent shock unit against low armor, but against a regenerating monsters infantry unit, they are really not the ticket for success here. And that's really another reason why this matchup is so foreboding. You just don't have anything that can effectively punish the Cryptars in melee combat. You have to kill them at range, or they are going to kill everything that you know and love and hold dear in your heart. Senegors are good at clearing up Crypt Ghouls, though. It's a really nice little charge. Definitely want to pull out and cycle charge back in for some extra damage. You just see the tattered remains of all the Beastmen just running around now. They don't have a big enough objective ticket lead to win on one objective. Not that it'd really even be that easy to hold down the number 2. I mean, just look at all of the stuff over here on the number 3. You got White Kings. You got a Mortis Engine. You got Graveguard. You got Cryptars. You got 2 Cryptars here, and the Mortis, and the Corpse Cart with the Unholy Lodestone. All of these units are starting to get some wicked stacked heals. 4.9 HP per second, 0.10 healing. Cryptars, I mean, you know, they're going to heal cap in no time flat with the 0.15. Mortis Engine technically needs to be in combat, I think, for it to provide heals. It doesn't say that. I think the Corpse Cart's a little too far away. That's okay, though. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you just sit on 2 objectives here and you win the game at this point. You got another Cryptar coming in. You got Stearnsman coming back out in the Crypt Ghouls. Stearnsman didn't do that great the first time, but they did last for a while, despite being in some really ugly fights. Now, Beastmen are going to pile up onto this point with all of their mobile units. I don't think they even have enough cap weight to get this, though. I mean, they're barely flipping this point right now. The second the Stearnsmen and the Crypt Ghouls touch this point, it's going to be impossible for them to take this. And even outlasting the Crypt Ghouls and the Crypt Horrors would be tough enough. Beautiful little breath attack from the Chimera. Not quite on the edge of the unit. It's better to fly out onto the side, enfilade right down the entire Sternsman. You basically half their HP immediately. But a good chunk of damage nonetheless. And Blood Dragon Lord taking the fight in the air. He's gotten 3,900 value. Only 1,000 HP left though, so definitely need to be careful with this guy. Invo is getting him up to his heal cap. And he dives in here trying to get the Brace Shame, and he pops Helmet Discord too, so that's huge debuffs on all the Beastmen units here. The Beastmen are just completely out of steam, dude. You just don't have any way to kill all these freaking undead units. Oh my god. I'm really not too surprised to see this. I don't, you know, I want to try and just be as clear as I can be on why matchups play out the way they do sometimes. I know it can be a little bit of a spoiler to just say, wow, this matchup is genuinely abysmal, and there's honestly very little opportunity for the Beastman to win here. Look how much value this Bray Shaman has. He's got 4,050 value. And, I mean, he's barely moved the frickin' needle with Traderkin. I mean, all of the important relevant targets are still alive that you'd normally want it to kill. I mean, the White Kings are still alive over here, and the Mortis Engine's alive. Corpse Carts are both alive, and you didn't get the Lord Snipe. So, it's about as abysmal as it gets for the Beastman here. Clipsy didn't even play badly. He just, this is the classic breakpoint. Beastmen are really good against all the mortal factions, though. That's where they thrive. They love annihilating just about everybody else. This is just one of the only truly bad matchups for them. Counts, Slanesh, maybe Wood Elves, I would say, are probably the only matchups that Beastmen are really afeared of. No, Chaos Dowey, not really. Yeah, they have a pretty good time. Counts are also a really strong faction, though. This is just one of those situations where, you know, your opponent doesn't have the heat. They don't have enough gas to get through all your goodies. That Blood Dragon Lord dude, 4,000. I mean, he was just putting the work in. Smacking up the Chimera, killing the Great Bray Shaman, dropping all of those Helmet Discords. I don't know what else he was doing. Oh, he killed the Feral Manicore, so I'm fighting that. And he got a massive Wind of Death early on that just destroyed 2 or 3, maybe even 3 or 4 Goreherd and Zangors with just the one cast. So you can see correspondingly low value totals for all the infantry of the Beastmen. Normally the Beastmen infantry are the most cost-effective part of their builds, in fact. It's the fact that the counts have so many clear options for them. That's one of the reasons it's rough. The Senegors get countered. Traderkin, which is normally so good at just killing everything and being an excellent anti-monstrous, anti-SE tool, is just completely negated by all of the passive healing. It's like a million little things all coming together to just spell absolute catastrophe for you. It's awesome to hear, dude. Love your name, by the way. Amarabi's vending machine is pretty hilarious. Yeah, the Zervesta, the zombies are in a little pencil formation because it does make them last longer. It's just less surface area for them to get stabbed in. You know? Takes longer for the Goreherd to grind through them, and that means that the Cryptors can sit on them longer, the Mortis Engine can do the same, Corpse Carts, White Kings, on and on down the line. Yeah, Tzeentch is the ranged Chaos faction. They're pretty strong. They're a little gimmicky, is like the one thing I'll say about Tzeentch. I'm definitely not very good at them. I play Khorne and Beastmen, Warriors of Chaos, and a lot of really aggressive Chaos factions for the most part. If I'm playing ranged factions, I'm doing like High Elves or Wood Elves. But Tzeentch has teeth, for sure, that you just have to really skew your builds usually with them. That's not really my cup of tea. I like playing fairly balanced builds for my games. It's just my personal preference. But good Tzeentch specialists are absolutely some of the funnest games to watch. Period. Absolutely no contest. They're really cool. Jimmy and AldDB. This was Ald's first tournament, and he got all the way into the semis at the very least, so huge kudos to him. I'm very impressed. He's got the Druzhina here. I actually really like this guy. I do prefer him with little Groms, though. I'll talk about the Druzhina in a second. You can see Mazdamundi over here, some Saurus, Skinks. Pretty typical Lizardman build. Very normal starting type of army for them. Lizards sometimes mix in, like, Bastillodon with the solar engines or something. But almost always they're going to just have the Skinks and maybe like a Saurus or two. So really nothing too notable here. Net, Arcane, and Forging, Apotheosis, and then Banishment and Ruination. It's really good for clearing out numbers. And against Kislev, you do definitely want to have something to be able to punish Kossar lines, and Armored Kossars, or Zargard or something. So, I do like bringing the bound abilities here. Druzhina's got Tal's Judgment. So I mentioned earlier, this guy is good with Little Grom because he has Restock. I actually really love Little Grom against Ogre Kingdoms and Lizardmen especially. This is a perfect map for Little Grom too, because there is nowhere safe to sit on this map against Little Grom pretty much. It can reach out and touch you from pretty much anywhere, and it thumps. It thumps real hard. It will hard counter Mazdamundi pretty much. Mazda, if Little Grom were around, would basically just have to sit in the trees over here. And, you know, he would just be sitting on his little toilet seat, feeling real sorry for himself. Being so pressed at every possible angle. He's got a lot of missile resist, so he can survive Little Grom shots decently, but that's why you bring Druzhina with the Restock. So Little Grom always has ammo to at least be able to pressure Mazdamundi. Ulrika is a very rare choice. Almost never see her. She's got some really cool abilities. She's got Blood Shard, which is a really nice spell intensity item. You need 200 kills, though. It's going to be a little tough to get. I don't love Pendulum against Lizardmen. Their formations are a little too spread out, especially for Saurus and the more expensive options. It can do good damage to Skinks, but they're a little cheap for using a semi-expensive spell on. Look, really, Pit of Shades is where the money is at. I really do think it's still just overall better. We'll see about the Pendulums. I'm a little skeptical as to whether they'll get good value, but Melkoth's is always strong. You just use that on any Cold Wind Riders that come out. Yeah. I prefer Pit of Shades because you just use it on Temple Guard or Saurus. For lack of any other options. You've got plenty of ways to clear Skinks. Because you just bring a ton of Winged Lancers in Griffin Legion, and you just, like, bulldoze over the Skinks. They get absolutely folded up by the Lancer charges. It's really disgusting. Ulrika and the Druzhina are just poking with their bows. I don't really know what they're shooting. They're not really doing any damage, man. Got a couple model kills, I just don't know where. Oh, on the cold one. That's whatever. It's really not that huge. Tal's Judgment is kind of like Arrow of Kurn. It's not as strong. Honestly, this is about what they should balance Arrow of Kurnus out to, and I think it would be perfectly fine for the Wood Elves to bring as many as they want. My problem with Arrow of Kurnus is the fact that it has like 600-meter range you can fire it from, which means you can literally be on the other side of the map and still shoot a unit. It'd be a little bit ridiculous. Mazda's chilling. He's taking a little bit of damage, but he's fine. He's got Apo, so he can heal himself if he wants. And Kislev is just posting up with all their warriors. Some dervishes in the woods. You got things in the woods as well. Things in the woods, And Kislevite warriors and armored Kossars are really making up the core of the front line with the Kossar spears hanging out behind and one Streltsy, which is a good option. One Streltsy is a pretty good unit to have available on standby for some heavy AP damage. That was an okay ruination of cities. I mean, Kislevite Warrior is down to less than half health, which is awesome. Money has to put himself in the danger zone, though, and he's really starting to get hammered right now. Druzhina's still poking him from far, too. He's getting some decent value. Oh, another thing about the Druzhina, I don't know why he's not doing this right now. I guess it would be a little risky. There's still some unengaged units. Skink cohort, like, right here, too, that can blob him up. This guy's pretty good at melee combat. He's got 50 melee attack and good weapon strength. Decent charge bonus, too, so he can go in and thump, like, non-dedicated combat characters pretty freaking hard. I would really like to see that, but maybe that's a little too aggressive right now. You know, I've got aggro brain rot. If I'm not going 100 miles an hour, then I'm not playing the game right, in my opinion. Spear Riders and Cohort of Waddle are defending the flanks. Really good defense over here from the Lizardmen. Just not letting themselves get surrounded is actually kind of huge. You don't want to let the Kislevite forces get onto the flank and then start to swarm around the back and get after your Skink cohorts before they use all their ammo. Because Skink cohorts, they hit really hard with these little jabbies that they toss in. They've got poison attacks on them. They've got pretty decent AP values and good base weapon damage, obviously. So hitting something like a Kossar Spear, they actually are able to put down some pretty good DPS. And then they get in there and they actually scrap fairly evenly. Same as a regular Skink cohort. I'm pretty sure they have the exact same stats, in fact. The only difference is that the Skink cohort over here is tired, so the one with the javelin still has the extra melee attack because they're not engaged yet, not getting exhausted. You can see some of the Kossars running here. Nice pendulum in the back line. You know, Ulrika's not doing poorly, I guess. She's got 850 value. Really love to see some more Melkoths coming out. Just to hit the Spear Riders here. Very, very cost-effective unit to be hitting right now. Dervishes, I really am not so sure about bringing a whole bunch of them in this matchup. They're a little too lightly armored. The reason you go with the Winged Lancers and Griffin Legion, even though your opponent has lots of cheap AP with Feral Cold Ones and whatnot, is because the Griffin Legion just went on the charge so hard, it doesn't even matter. These Feral Cold Ones have pretty awful stats overall. They're not going to be hitting Griffin Legion consistently. I think it's your best bet. But really, Kislev just kind of wandered forward, and Jimmy has just been doing a really good job of playing a very balanced, semi-defensive game here. And I think that the Lord choice and the hero choice are a little bit off kilter here. I don't think Ulrika is bad. That's not what I'm trying to get across, but I really do think that you're better off with I think a Frostworm Maiden, or Ice Witch, I guess is what they're called, with Ice Maiden's Kiss and Ice Sheet, or just the good old standby of Blizzard and Hawks and Miska would be better. Or you can just go Hawks and Miska and Hailstorm. Hailstorm for Spear Riders, and then Hawks and Miska for clearing out Skinks. You'd be in a much better state right now, because this Shadow Magic is not providing nearly enough momentum for Kislev. They're holding on to their number one just fine. The problem is they did not get this cap earlier. Lizards are rapidly approaching the point of no return for Kislev. The number 2 objective is fairly well held. Spear Riders back here, things in the woods can't take that fight alone. Winged Lancers moving around looking for some fights. Umbral Tide needs to just turn around and start shooting these cav. Just sitting here. They're on fire at will, I think. Fire at will really just doesn't work. I mean, it's just honestly kind of sad. It'd be nice if it did, but you work with what you get. It keeps breaking every time they patch, so give your missile units orders. Just click with them. You know? You buy games to click buttons. That's how you get good at them. Learn how to click the buttons, guys. Source Spear's doing alright. Chameleon Stalker's actually getting some decent value with about 400. I am going to guess Cohort of Waddle has 1,500 value. Oh wow, only 1,000. Still not that bad. They help clean up the things in the woods real quick here. Surprised they're so beat up right now. I think they've been, probably got focused by the Streltsy, but the Streltsy are gone. Mazda's been dropping a lot of spells. Ruination of Cities is all gone. He's got 1 Banishment left. It's not really a great opportunity to use Banishment. I guess you could just throw it down on the Dervishes over here. This is like 1,000 value worth of Dervishes. But maybe saving it for the Zargard is what he's game planning for right now. And yeah, just running down the Winged Lancers with all of his Spear Riders. But you can see the Lancers got 1,000 value. I mean, all of that is on the Umbral Tide pretty much. I think if you just stick with them, though, you're in a way better position. Truth be told, especially against factions that have stuff like Coldland Spear Riders, where it's like dedicated anti-large AP, anti-cav type of units, Griffin Legion, just 3 of those in reserve is all you need, dude. You use them as a backline sweeper, and you bring Little Grom, and you target the cav and the monster's infantry. And just blast them with whatever missile units, because the more pressure you put on your opponent from range, the more likely it is that they overextend themselves. It's pretty elementary, like 2 + 2 = 4 kind of game plan. Kislev's really good at forcing people in with Little Grom, because it hits so hard. And this is what the Druzhina was custom built for. Drop the Tall's Judgment. You're not even using it. Still got all 3 uses here, so get rid of it, get a restock, get 1 Little Grom, either in the starting army or in reserve, and go to town on your opponent and watch as they blunder their units and trying to get after it. You can still bring Ulrika if you really want to, and she'll be a little bit better. Because she'll have a little bit more time to actually intercept units in the back line, maybe get risky going after Mazda Monday on occasion. Your opponent will just have a lot more to worry about than bringing a very traditional halberd, bow, gun line, which Lizards are just really good against in general. Lizards just have a ton of HP, man. I mean, they are really tough to break down in the early game. I mean, Skink Cohorts, 8,000 you might think isn't that much HP, but you compare that to something like a Bloodletter, these guys have the same HP as Bloodletters. And this is a 450 gold unit. They are dirt cheap, and they have that much health. Then you add on that Croxies have, like, almost 9,000. Soras have over 10,000 HP. It's tough getting through all this, guys. They will hard push you down if you don't have some artillery or really heavy-hitting anti-large to chunk through them. And unfortunately, Warbear Riders, they're not awful. They definitely are not a late-game unit that you can just bring in and reliably grind the rest of the game out with. Warbear Riders are a supplemental unit for specific matchups, like against Ogre Kingdoms and whatnot. I would definitely not be relying on them against Lizardmen. I think Lizardmen are a deceptively bad matchup for Warbear Riders, in fact. Because all that's going to happen is a Feral Cold One and then a Spear Rider or a Sacred Croxagore are just going to double team the Warbears and just absolutely trash can them. There's not even going to be a contest there. Even the Spear Rider that missed its charge still took half HP off a Warbear Rider. It's 1,000 gold unit versus, what, 1,550 for the Kislev Warbears. Honestly, Warbear Riders need a slight buff. They're definitely on the lower end of the spectrum as a Monsters Cav unit. They don't do much at all. They struggle pretty hard. The ROR variant is okay, though. But that's because the Oath Brothers of Tor have this blinded ability. This bombardment does pretty good damage. You know, to low armor targets, obviously, but also just the fact that they debuff melee attack and melee defense means they can actually sit and grind. They're not really built for shock damage. I don't really know what CO was doing when they designed this unit. It seemed like they just couldn't pick a lane, to be honest. They were like, do we want them to be shock Monsters Cav, or do we want them to be like a sit and grind type of unit? And then they were just like, why not both? And then the middle ground is usually the worst possible way to go about it. Unless you massively overtune the unit. Like a lot of the Slaanesh stuff, which is a whole different can of worms. And I am glad that Warbear Riders are not anti-everything like some of the Slaanesh units are, because that gets frustrating for entirely different reasons. Longest range, depends on what your definition of a missile unit is. Like, when I think of missile units, I'm thinking of traditional bow and gun units. So, Way Watchers would be the answer to that. They have 190 meter range. There's some other units that are technically missile units. They're not really. They're like pseudo-artillery. Like, Jezzails have 275 meter range. I consider them an arty unit. I mean, they hit about as hard as one. They just have more models in the unit. They're just kind of like a mid-range one. Chosen of the Gods are similar for the Tomb Kings. They're even more geared to being arty. I think they even have the damage by artillery debuff for leadership on their missile attacks. And then you have actual artillery pieces, of course. I don't actually know what artillery has the longest range. Little Grom is up there for sure. It's got like 400, 420, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I can reach out and touch you. Dowie cannons are up there, 440. They might have actually, so they're the longest range ones. I don't think anything else is going to touch that. Grand Cathay, I think, is the same. Oh, no, they've got 450. Dude, see, here's the thing. Alright. Little differences in the artillery actually end up adding up to a lot. It's kind of hilarious. So, Empire cannons are kind of terrible. They're a lot less accurate than the Dwarf cannons. The Dwarf cannons are actually slightly shorter range, but are way better. Because their crew has higher leadership, survives a little bit better, has more HP, right? Yeah? Not by that much, but adds up. And 20 more armor is a decent little buff. Yeah, wow, okay. And they just actually hit more accurately. Grand Cathay cannons need a lot of babysitting, not just because they're defenseless, but also because of Harmony. Day like 50 of asking CA to rework Harmony just a little bit. Either increase the meters on it again to like 70 or 80 meters, or make it so that you get full Harmony if you've got a balance of yin and yang on the field, which I think would be much cooler. It's my 2 cents. Like, if you have an equal number of yin units and an equal number of yang units, like 10 of each on the field, Harmony's all the way stacked up. That'd be fun. But yeah, the Grand Cannons of Grand Cathay, I guess, have the longest range in terms of arty. I'd be shocked if anything else is close. 450 is a long way, guys. It's basically most of the distance between spawn points on pretty much every one of the maps. The exception would be like Scalandiers, which is just monstrously oversized, and a couple others. Some single entity artillery that's got pretty decent range, like skull cannons and whatnot. And I think Kugath, yeah, he's got 400 meters. It's got a little bit of variability between all of the different subsets of ranged units. I try to differentiate between all of them, because I do think they all fill fairly different niches in terms of use. So it just depends on what kind of a role you're trying to fill. So, we've got our finals game going on here. We've got Toaster, and we've got Jimmy. Toaster has played really well. Did great against the Beastmen. He's played a little loose with the Blood Dragon Lord. He almost got him caught and killed against the Beastmen. Definitely want to be a little bit more careful with this guy so you don't just blunder him into a position where he dies. Because vampire counts are very dependent on their lords for value trading in general, and then also just for, you know, supporting the rest of their army. I mean, they got a lot tied up in these dudes with summons, heals, support tools like Helm and Heart Piercing is really nice for sundering armor. Even if it's only affecting one unit, and it's not like your ideal target, which is like a lord or something, it'd still be very nice to be affecting something. Pterodons with the Fire Leech Bolas are kind of cute, but I've never really found them to be particularly effective against the Counts. Counts just have a very dominant aerial presence, so it's kind of hard to give these guys time to shoot. They got a lot of ammo, and they can get really good value, but keeping them protected for that long is going to be a bit of a challenge. Zombies, skellies, all the usual shenanigans. Nothing too wild here. Double Unholy Lodestone. Umbral Tide is the first summon out. Good choice. Salamander hunting packs can absolutely dominate this matchup for the Lizards. They will hard carry you because they kill everything. Cryptars, Vargeist, Corpse Carts, Dragons, Terrorgeist, even Blood Knights, Black Knights suffer pretty bad from their shots. Mortis Engines also get hard countered by them. Counts really need good options to kill these guys. Fate of Buna is the easiest way to kill the Umbral Tide. There's plenty of other ways to go about it, though. You can just get a bunch of Fellbats and just dive bomb them with a bunch of garbage. It's a pretty effective way, and then you don't have to use all your magic on just like 1 or 2 units. You can have a little bit more flexibility with what you're doing. White Kings with Scab Scraths are going to be really good here. Even Saurus get hit pretty hard by Scab Scrath, because they only have 60 armor. It's a decent amount, but it's not mitigating most of the damage from Scab Scrath, in fact. And this thing just has a wicked amount on it, so you gotta be really careful. You can actually even use the Scab Scraths right about now. You can just use it to like delete some of these skink cohorts of the Javelins. The Javelin cohorts are deceptively dangerous in this matchup. I mean, I mentioned that they're really strong before, but especially against Cryptors, they spend all their ammunition on a Cryptor, and one skink cohort can actually take off about a good third of their health, which is pretty damn devastating. Really gets them in the danger zone early on in terms of value trades. So they can't sit and grind quite as effectively, and then they get focused by hunting packs and whatnot, and then they just kind of fall apart. Beautiful Burning Head, by the way. Excellent Lord choice for the Lizards. Gotta be really careful, though. Look at the Blood Dragon Lord. He is definitely eyeing up an opportunity to dive here. He's going to drop a zombie summon, which is a really good call. It's going to force the Umbral Tide to move, and they aren't going to be able to finish the Crypt Horror here. Look at what just a couple of volleys from the Umbral Tide was able to do, though. I mean, 600 value. They even used a full volley, right? Yeah, they probably used 2. Good cap for the vampire counts. They are getting counter pushed here on the number 3. They do have a Crypt Ghoul over here. They've got a zombie. But lizards have a ton of cap weight with these skinks, dude. They got full cap weight, and they cost like 325 and 450 respectively. Plus the Sorcerer here. Another really durable unit. It's looking a little scary. It's definitely a pretty nice position, I would say, for the Lizardmen. I mean, yeah, they've got a value lead. That can be kind of hard to gauge against the undead. There's definitely been a little bit of passive healing to survive some of this, but I think that Jimmy is positioning well enough that he could be setting himself up for some late game success here. What is this spell cast? Oh, piercing bolts of burning coming down. Oh my god, no way. Wow, look at that damage. Actually doing some good work against the Crypt Horrors, and kills 3 of the Crypt Horror models. Source Spears are getting a little overwhelmed here, though. Scab Scraths, all 3 of them online. Haven't seen any use out of them yet. Ooh, what a dodge through with the Dire Pack, and a beautiful zombie summon to lock down the Umbral Tide. Good Rev Crystal to counter that, though. This is where you get those skink cohort in there. These other ones can just kind of rock up to the front line here and help out. Ooh, man. I think, actually... You know what? Jimmy is actually blundering a little bit here. Now, at first, I was thinking this push for the number 3 objective might end up being a really good call. I think he's actually overcommitting here. He's got a lot... Look how many units he's got hovering around the number 3, which he has not capped. And then look how many Vampire Counts units are breaking up what little remains on the number 2 and is about to just, like, bum rush into his back line and start to roll up his entire flank. There's multiple Crypt Horrors over here. Both White Kings are hanging out. Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is just kind of faffing about. He really hadn't done anything yet. He's just chasing the Pterodons back. Pterodons with 700 value is pretty cool. Umbral Tide got chewed up pretty bad by the Dire Pack. Even though they did survive that attack, pretty low on HP. They really need the Rev Crystal healing. Rev Crystals are on a 60-second cooldown. It's a lot longer than you think. Fairly short for a 10% heal, but you definitely feel the ill effects of it when you desperately need to be dropping it on your units. And the zombies are actually dragging down quite a few of the Umbral Tide models, because they're just so tangled up in the zombie unit. You see all these little zombos are just kind of smacking the Umbral Tide as they're trying to push past. It's 1 or 2 damage at a time, really, but they dropped another 4 models off this unit. They might even break their leadership, depending on what happens here. It is razor close. With the Rev Crystal heal, they're probably going to be okay. Oh, the Wind of Death. Not as good as in that Beastman game, but still a decent chunk of damage, and this whole time he's still hanging on at this point. Lizards are probably going to grab this now, though. They've fully committed all of the skinks onto the point. They should be able to steal this away. Good Helmet Discord coming down. Oh, it's going to be tough for Toaster. Jimmy has a big lead here, man. He still hasn't killed the White Kings. Still has all the Scab Scraths. I don't know why he hasn't just dropped double Scab Scrath onto the Skink Skirmishers here. He would kill both these units, basically. Double Scab Scrath does enough damage to Skinks because they're low enough armor that it'll actually just full-on outright kill all the models in a unit if you double it up. And Skink Skirmishers have next to no HP, so very vulnerable to stuff like that. Corpse carts are still alive, and that's a very important thing to consider here for the middle stages of the game. Umbral Tide getting a lot of value just shooting against the Crypt Horrors. We need to see some movement from Toaster here. He really does not want to just sit and get pummeled. He has somehow saved this back point. Oh, the skinks all starting to break. The fear really hurting them. The issue with the skinks is they do have fairly low leadership. That can come back to bite them, and they are getting the cause fear attribute applied to them because there are Croxagors nearby, so they are not being affected by that particular leadership debuff. They're just taking a lot of damage, and again, this grind, man. The Vampire Count's ability to survive anything and everything is so difficult to contend with. It really wears on you, man. Couple Spear Riders moving around the flank. They definitely are going to want to try and engage onto the back of the Cryptars. There's a lot of buffering here, though. I mean, even if it's just something like a zombie, that's all you need for a Cryptar. One of them is going down to the Umbral Tide, who probably, yeah, have about 1,500 value. Cohort of Waddles moving over. It's a good disengage off of the number 3 objective. This was just not working. Jimmy, recognizing that, is going to be trying a different strategy here. I'm wondering, though, if maybe if he had just hard committed to killing all the units on the number 2 objective, if he wouldn't be in a better position. One problem, potentially, for the Lizards is the Slan Priest is going to be pretty useless once he is out of magic. He's not going to contribute much. The Blood Dragon Lord, at the very least, will always have Helm of Discord in the back pocket. It's going to be really nice to just fly around and just keep dropping these debuffs, man. They do really hurt. It doesn't last the same way as some other buffs might, but you can just keep them hovering over the top of the Coldland Spear Riders here. Then your Cryptor and the Skeletons should be able to grind this down. A really nice bombardment. That Piercing Bolts of Burning. Some really good damage. A lot of that on Skeleton Spears, though. Cryptars are still hanging in. Beautiful Wind of Death. Another one just chunking through all the skinks here. Sora Spears also taking a decent chunk of damage. And White Kings, they're fighting happy as can be. Finally used the Scab Scrape. I have no idea where. But obviously it's done some pretty good damage because Toaster's starting to catch up, and that's a bad sign. Because these corpse carts, man, they're still hanging on. They've been trundling around all game, and they've been dropping a lot of passive healing. You got the Tithe coming in. You've got this Cryptar unit barely hanging on for dear life right now. They got 10 models. They got a lot of room to heal, too. And it's very possible that they just outlast all of these tattered Coldland Spear Riders. Oh, and look at this, dude. Devil Schwarzhoffen, after killing the Umbral Tide with the Blood Dragon Lord, thumping this poor slain Mage Priest. Good countercharge with the Spear Riders. Cohort of Waddle come over. Bastiladon with a Rev Crystal trying to help out. Big blob developing. Usually very favored for the undead. We'll see if that continues to be the case. Zombie Summon taking a lot of damage as it comes out, but nonetheless providing a lot of damage buffering for the Devils and the Blood Knight, or the Blood Dragon Lord, sorry. This Slain Mage Priest has just about every buff activated on himself. He's still struggling. That Helm of Discord is really ruining the engagement for the Lizardmen as well, because even though the Aura of Quetzal was allowing them to still have their full melee defense, the melee attack is in the absolute toilet right now, which is a really bad situation to be in against Counts. Because Counts either need to just overwhelm them with an insane amount of melee attack and just grind through everything before they can get all their passive healing really stacked up and going. That's what Khorne does against Vampire Counts. Counts can't really stop them either at doing it, especially with decent Marauder Horseman play. Brutal Scab Scrates, bye-bye Skinks. They're all going to Terror Route out of here. You got one of them Terror Routing at the very least. This other one is being very brave, though. Good for them. Good for them. Hanging on. trying to help the Croxies. Cohort of Waddle is doing a lot of work here. Not quite paying for themselves, and unfortunately the Slain Mage Priest is actually broken. Couple Cryptars are chilling in the midst of that fight and doing some good damage. Devils have not value traded upwards, but they've still just about paid for themselves. Lizards are really running out of room. That's a lot to keep on the back objective. I would move, personally, I would move this Cryptar forward and just leave the other bodies there with the corpse cart. Because it'd be really nice to have 3 very healthy Cryptars over here right about now. Do need to find a way to get the Umbral Tide down again. I'm sure you've got 1 zombie summon left. You actually got 3, so I'd be looking for a summon here just to force them back. It looks like they're going to reposition of their own accord. Maybe a little worried about the Blood Dragon Lord just diving them regardless. Oh, this is a big blunder, honestly. It's a long way to run back. It's leaving these Cryptars to get a lot of healing. That freaking Vigor Mortis, dude. Oh, you know, the passive healing has been nice, but I'm telling you, the Perfect Vigor has been the biggest break point for the Lizardmen, because all their units just continually getting tired, and yeah, some of these units are like fading and whatnot, but a lot of them are still active and animated with the corpse cart giving them this little bigger buff. I would just say, on average, the undead are just more with it than not right now. And Dire Pack come out with the Blood Dragon Lord. You get a beautiful Helmet Discord. Oh, they've been so good. There have been a couple of times that Toaster has mispositioned them. Definitely wants to sharpen up his Blood Dragon positioning when he's not just already in melee combat and he's just trying to give the buffs and hover overhead. But he has been very active with his Lord. He's gotten some good Winds of Death. He's dove at the right time to Lord Snipe. He gets a huge leadership break on the Umbral Tide. This is where you just... So what you do here, you don't even need to kill this unit now. The most important thing is you just have something run them off the field. That's all you need to do now. Cryptars and the Crypt Ghouls are going to just sit here and grind down the cohort of Sotek, and that's going to be a huge win there. Zombies moving forward. Now that you have units on your opponent's back objective, you just move everything off this point and go forward. Or you divide a little bit. What do you have over here anyways? 2 beat up Crypt Ghouls. I would march the zombies forward. You got 2 zombies here. Both these zombies go, and both these Crypt Ghouls go over there. Corpse Cart moves up, and the Cryptars move up over here. Because you need the cap weight over here more than anything else. There's really not a lot for the Lizardmen in here. They've got Saurus, which is nice. They've got a Rev Crystal to drop a few more heals. Got 2 more on there. Bolas aren't providing cap weight. Everything else is just so beleaguered. There's no way they're going to outgrind there if you just... Yeah, another Crypt Ghoul. You've got the Feasters in the Dusk over here. You're getting smacked up by the Fire Leech Bolas, but another nice Scab Scrape. Honestly, hanging on to those in the late game has been pretty huge. And the White Kings, dude, this is why White Kings are so oppressive. Look at these guys, man. They are surrounded by Lizardmen units, and they do not care a lick what is going on. Part of the reason White Kings are so good, they're one of the only undead units that has, like, above 50 leadership on the roster. They've got 70 leadership, which is low for a hero unit and most other factions, but for their counts, 70 might as well be an unbreakable unit, because it's very rare that they start crumbling. Crumbling damage is really not that terrible for counts anyways, because all their heals, but White Kings especially not crumbling just gives them absolutely ridiculous sustainability. They will scrap wire to wire in probably 8 out of 10 games. Unless you really mess up with White Kings, they are almost impossible to kill. Basically, what you want to do is ignore White Kings and just work around them as best you can. The more you ignore them, and the more time you spend killing all the chaff and then killing all of the corpse carts, that's your ticket for victory against the counts, usually. Lizards can do that. I don't really know where it went wrong for Jimmy, honestly. That's kind of just the counts' style. They just last through so much more damage than any other faction possibly could imagine. And then by the end game, you're looking around at the battlefield and you're like, what happened? I had like a 4,000 value lead. Where did that go, and how am I losing the game now? So I've really got to give it up to Toaster for just sticking with it, man, because the beginning of that game was looking real rough. Jimmy had some really great early trades with the Umbral Tide. Cohort of Waddle got some great value. The Spear Riders were a little lackluster. I do find them to be up and down in this matchup. They're still pretty useful, though. Especially if they can catch, like a Blood Dragon Lord out of position, or just countercharge Vargeist. Honestly, I think you need one more Salamander Hunting Pack, and you'd be pretty set. I think you can cut this extra Pterodon. Just the one Bola was good enough. I mean, 1,700 value is pretty crazy. I think that's all you need. One more Salamander and you'd be pretty happy. And they can help roast. And then it's not just all in the Umbral Tide to clear the carts and the horrors. Because the Lizards got good value on a lot of their units. The Scheme Cohorts, for whatever reason, kind of low down here. I guess they were not shooting quite the right targets. They really do need to use their Javelins against the Crypt Horrors. If you do that, you will just shred through their HP quickly. And then it's an easy matter of mopping them up with the hunting packs. And if you really want to go deep on killing the Crypt Horrors, just get all of your Skink Cohort Javelins into position early. Get every single one of them to throw at a single Crypt Horror and just kill that unit with only the Javelin Cohorts. And then your Umbral Tide can just mollywop all of the Crypt Horrors as they wander out aimlessly onto the points. Because here's the thing, Crypt Horrors are super sustainable. They are a little hard to get to points at times. If you can intercept Crypt Horrors in the Vampire Count's backline, that's actually where you can really make some up trades happen. Because look at the Count's army, right? They've got all these slow zombies and slow skeletons. They've got all the Crypt Ghouls, who can be a really nice midfield unit. They're not really great for value trading, though. They're just there for damage buffering for Crypt Horrors, rather. If you can just stop Crypt Horrors from getting up to points for free, you're intercepting them with Spear Riders. You're like charging with one Spear Rider, disengaging with it. The Crypt Horrors start chasing, and then you charge with the other one and kind of shock it down, and you just have some minor support back there. Honestly, maybe that's what the Fire Leech Bola could be for, is to just fly around in the back line and just chip some damage off of these horrors as they're waddling in. Just use the jankiness of air combat, just fly away if you ever see a Fellbat or a Vargeist on the way in. I really don't think Jimmy needs to even change his build. Just the one unit, and I think it would make a big difference. And maybe not use Piercing Bolts of Burning quite as much. It did some good damage, but it was a little bit lackluster at times. It's just kind of hard. Piercing Bolts is a lot like Searing Doom. It does great damage, but pretty small strike area. It has a huge wind-up time and takes ages to actually land all the missiles. It's a lot easier to dodge than Searing Doom is. I just tend to be zoomed out anyways. I'm not in debug mode. I prefer to stay at a distance, especially for new player tournaments. I know it's really fun to get in and zoom on all the units, but I'm trying to like explain a lot of positioning and maneuver-based stuff, so, you know, That's kind of the trade-off when I'm focusing in on that. You don't get quite the same close-up action. I'm trying to just give you a good overview of the entire like battlefield, so you can see everything that's going on as best you can. And then I can kind of explain the thought process that the players are pursuing. Or at least as far as I can tell, you know. So yeah, I mean, that was a great tournament. And Toaster, a huge win. He did message me wanting some notes. It's really just making sure that you're not too risky with the Blood Dragon Lord. He was much better in that last game than against the Beastman. He did kind of get away with one in the Beastman game, where he got trapped up on the Corn Gores and the Chimera was on him. He had a huge Wind of Death to facilitate a push through for some of his units, though, that kind of bailed him out. Just try and avoid positions like that, though, man. These Blood Dragon Lords and the Hellsteeds don't have a lot of mass. 1,000 is nothing. If they get trapped, they are going to die. Because as good as they are in melee combat, they got really low melee defense, and they don't have a lot of HP. And Helm of Discord, it's a really good item, but it's on a 90-second cooldown. In 90 seconds, anything can happen in this game. Yeah, I really thought that the Lizards had it early too, man. White Kings are... That's fair. White Kings... That's why I said ignore them, you know? They're oppressive when you over-focus them. I do really like fire magic against counts, but if you just bring Final Transmutation and just overcast that on top of counts blobs, you can absolutely roast the vampire counts. Counts hate like single entity targeting spells, which is why Trader can always get so much freaking value against counts. You know, again, we talked about it because we saw that Counts Beastman game. Beastmen just don't have quite the sustainability they need to beat the vampires. I actually think that maybe the only way that you can like beat counts is to go for the Jabberslide double Gorgon build against them with the Traderkin caster. This was like an unironically decent build at one point. Then you just go like really deep on summoning out like Goreherd and a bunch of Chaff Clear, and you have Senties to like cap points at least 1 point early. Some Unger Raiders in reserve or something. Well, you don't really need that because you're going to be sniping the hell out of all the Mortis engines and whatnot. It's just a really bad matchup against counts for beasties. But Traderkin's really good against vampire counts. Same with Final Transmutation. Overcast Final Transmutation just absolutely destroys the White Kings and Lords and Corpse Cards. You just have to have a little extra follow-up to make sure that the counts can't heal through it all, and you're pretty set. I do agree with Max on that one. With throwing axes, piloted by Oishi. Yeah, where'd Oishi go, man? It's been a long time since I've seen him around. He was always pretty fun to play against. He was a little sweaty, but, I mean, you know, that's just kind of the game sometimes. I definitely get super sweaty playing it too, so who am I to say anything? Anyways, oh man. Yeah, it's getting hella late. Alright guys, I had an absolute blast streaming. Streamed a lot longer than I was intending to, actually. I'm gonna get some sleep. I've got stuff to do tomorrow. Got another appointment that I've got to be at, but after that, if I'm not too tired from it, maybe we can do another stream. Otto has been hosting a ton of events. There's a tournament of his I played in just the other day. Go check it out. Had some really fun games. Lost in the finals of that one, just to spoil it ahead of time. Still a pretty fun match, though. Maybe he'll be hosting tomorrow, because he's been hosting very regularly. It'd be a pretty good time, so check it out then, guys. Till then, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch y'all around. Peace out, guys. Please take care. You know, I don't think I need to tell people here that things are going pretty wild globally in general right now, so look out for one another.